Ladies and gentlemen, if you're a Mets fan, you better get out the Pepto-Bismol or the Rolaids. If you're a Yankees fan, you got to be feeling pretty good. If you're a Rangers fan, well, certainly I pity you and hope that you do well tomorrow night. And in the meantime, if you're a fan of everybody else here, if you're on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, Northeast Streaming Sports Channel, thank you for tuning in here live tonight to another Friday night Sportswire radio show here. And I'm joined at the moment right now by two of my guys from Sportswire Radio. That is Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter Show. You've heard Justin throughout the week here. Chris Pizzea of the Liftoff Jet Show, which you heard here earlier this morning and also last night. You'll hear throughout the weekend. Also, the Talking Rivals Show, which did a big space here. We'll be joined in a little while with Rob Maraska. We'll get his thoughts here in the world of Major League Baseball. Guys, how you doing here tonight?
Doing pretty good.
Doing good.
Well, are you sure you're doing all right, Justin, right now? Because I finished eating dinner. It was 7-0. I should say lunch, really, because that's really my lunch meal. It was 7-0 Mets. I go upstairs to get ready to turn all the stuff on. It was 7-3. And I asked Justin, I said, Justin, what's the Mets score? Because I kind of had a feeling it wasn't going to be the score that was when I came upstairs, and you told me 7-6. So you sure you're feeling okay right now?
Yeah, because I think the offense will score a couple more runs.
All right, well, we'll certainly get into that here. Obviously, before anything, I do want to give a happy birthday wish, which I promised at the top of the hour here that we came on. That is, of course, to Anthony Finkel, of course, one of our biggest supporters, one of my closest friends, obviously, dear friend of DPH Property Service. He is celebrating the big 3-3, and I didn't realize he's that old, 33. So that means I'm pretty much right behind him then. So 33. Wow, he definitely time flies. Happy birthday there, my friend Big Fink. I know he's got a huge birthday tomorrow out in beautiful Marine Park at the golf course. Although, unfortunately, it doesn't look like the weather is going to cooperate with us tomorrow. So I don't know if I'm going to be going. I don't know if I'm going to have birthday plans. But I do certainly wish Anthony Finkel a very, very happy birthday. Cannot thank him enough for all of the friendship over the years, all of the support. He has been on Sportswire Radio many times. He has called in many times. He has supported us. We have heard from his music, all the great things that he does for us. He is obviously also a huge New York Jets fan and a New York Knicks fan. My condolences on the Knicks part there, but we'll see if things get right there. But I can't thank you enough, man. I hope to join you tomorrow. I don't know if I'll join you tomorrow. I don't know what the weather's going to be like. Unfortunately, today was another topsy-turvy day here in New York, kind of like the sports scene. But in all kidding aside, do give Anthony J. Finkel a follow. Anthony J. Finkel on Instagram. Also, Finkel as well on Twitter as well. Facebook, DPH Property Maintenance Service. They do it all. Definitely give them a like on Facebook and Twitter. Cannot thank them enough for all of their support. And definitely, if you haven't heard it yet, Anthony Finkel, I'll definitely give you a happy birthday again. Shout out in a little while. But I'll get to baseball for sure because a lot I want to get to in baseball. And Rob Maraska will join us in, I guess, 45 minutes or so. But I do want to get into the NHL playoffs for a little bit because I'll get to the Rangers in a second. But I kind of feel like, and I know that the Avalanche and Blues run, we'll talk about that as well. But I feel like now for the first time, and I'm going to get Justin and Chris's thoughts on it because obviously they're two of our hockey guys here, despite Chris not quite doing a hockey show for us from Sports by Radio, but he definitely knows his stuff here. But I feel like not quite that a star is born, but in a way that Connor McDavid's playoff star has been born. We've always heard about all these years. Can Connor McDavid finally go deep into the postseason? The last couple of years, Edmonton has fallen short, getting bounced early in the first round. They've had some years where they've missed the postseason altogether, but the way he's played, and certainly the way the Edmonton Oilers came back in the first round against the Los Angeles Kings, and the way they came back pretty much after being down very big early on in the first game against the Calgary Flames to dispose of them rather quickly. I kind of feel like, Justin, maybe we've seen a playoff star born in one Connor McDavid.
Yeah, and I mean, it's clear that things didn't go well after their second round exit in 2017, losing to the Anaheim Ducks that year. That was a team that was really supposed to do some damage and go far to the postseason. They didn't. Obviously, Anaheim ended up losing in the conference finals to Nashville that year. Mm-hmm. But this year, I mean, it's crazy to look at where we were at midway through game one, and it was 6-2 Flames, and you're like, oh my God, that they might wipe the floor with the Oilers in this series because the Oilers have no defense and no goaltending. Well, it really just flipped the other way around. Calgary had no answer for anything Edmonton wanted to do offensively. And Mike Smith became competent. And it's incredible to see like what game one did for the confidence of Jacob Markstrom, because he blows that big lead. Yes, they win game one, but it seemed like that comeback, even though it didn't result in a win, gave Edmonton a ton of momentum. And here they are. They won 4 straight games. And, I didn't expect the Battle of Alberta to end in 5, but it might have been the most entertaining 4-1 series win I think ever, because I mean you were on the edge of your seat every time McDavid was on the ice, and the double shifting that Jay Woodcroft decided to do, pairing Draisaitl and McDavid, and you got to give a lot of credit to Leon Draisaitl.
Absolutely.
Something's clearly bothering him where he doesn't look 100%, but he's out there. He's playing incredibly well. You've gotten great production from Zach Hyman, Evander Kane, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has been pretty good. I mean, their contributing cast really makes it a lot easier for McDavid and Draisaitl, because they're the guys that everybody looks at when you're scouting the team, and the coach is like, okay, these are the guys we got to slow down. It's McDavid and Draisaitl. Well, it's hard to do that when other guys are stepping up and scoring. You've even had a couple of nice performances out of Kyler Yamamoto. He's played on the line occasionally. Jesse Puyarvi. So there's been consistent production up and down the lineup, and the defense has been good too. I mean, Darnell Nurse has played well.
He's been a very controversial figure if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan in the past. Based on the contract,
if you think about it, things really change, and things. They won that game, but he got suspended for Game 6 of the first round for a questionable hit. Edmonton might have been lucky to survive that game against LA. So, what does that mean? Would LA be going to the conference finals? I doubt it, but I mean, it just incredible. I mean, this is an Oilers that looks poised to win a Stanley Cup this year. And look, they're one of the Final Four teams now, and it has been 29 years since a Canadian franchise has won the Stanley Cup,
which is mind-boggling. That was the 1993 Montreal Canadiens. That was mind-boggling.
I mean, you haven't had many opportunities either.
Canucks in '94, the Flames in 04,
the Canucks. The Canucks in '94. You had the Flames in 04 lose to the Lightning. You had the Oilers lose to the Hurricanes.
06, yep.
The Senators lost to the Ducks in 07.
Montreal last year with it.
The Canucks lost to the Bruins. The Canucks lost to the Bruins in 2011.
They should have made the playoffs out altogether.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't, and it's funny, they wouldn't have in normal circumstances. But the Canadian division last year was so weak when they realigned it that, and somehow Montreal got hot.
Oh, they got hot, all right. I mean,
they were clearly no match for Tampa Bay.
Well, Tampa we're going to get to, and obviously Tampa is on a whole other level. And I mean, you think about players, guys and Chris that are on another level. I mean, Evander Kane, here's a guy, a controversial player in his own right over the past few years. Definitely all forgotten, especially in Edmonton. 12 goals right now, and McDavid and Draisaitl, of course, leading the all playoff scorers, each with 12 goals and 26 points here. And you got 7 goals and 19 assists each from just mind-boggling numbers. Zach Hyman's right there, like you said, 12 points, 8 goals and 4 assists. And you got Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with 11 points. So it's a well-balanced Edmonton team. And like you said, secondary scoring. But I mean, Chris, I just still feel like, though, at the end of the day, Connor McDavid, this is kind of like his coming out party. Not in the sense that he's, not been a great player, but he hasn't quite had the postseason success until now. And it looks like he's finally put that to bed a little bit now.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's got a good team with him now. I think that's helping out the situation as well. But I think this is great for hockey too, to have that mega star in the Stanley Cup Finals, right? Because we haven't had that in a couple of years now. So
Ovechkin, I guess, maybe the last
Yeah.
one. Maybe.
There's a lot.
And
I mean,
before
there's a
that,
lot of star
Crosby.
power. McKinnon too would count. McKinnon's a huge
Yeah,
star.
absolutely.
But the last couple of years with Tampa Bay, there's not that one guy. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
the goalie, but nobody
Stamkos, Kucherov,
where
them.
face of the NHL is in the Stanley Cup. But now McDavid, that makes a lot of sense, and hopefully he does make it. It'd be great to see Edmonton in there, but we'll see what happens with the St. Louis Colorado series. I mean, that's in Game 6 tonight. St. Louis
2-1 St. Louis.
And Colorado once again. I mean, every year it seems like they're gonna I could see them losing in Game 7 now if it goes to a Game 7.
I mean, surprisingly enough, St. Louis has been able to win 2 out of 3 games in Denver. So,
yeah.
But remember, they're a battle-tested team, though, in the postseason. They are a battle-tested team.
You think about. I know he's hurt now, so Bennington's out, but you got Ville Husso. But I mean, this team won a Stanley Cup in 2019. There's still plenty of players still on the St. Louis Blues that won the Stanley Cup just 3 years ago. So, I mean, you still have Tarasenko. You still have Thomas. I mean, there's plenty of players.
You got Parayko. You got Nick Leddy. Playing green. I mean, listen, my friend Daniel Slavin texts me, and I don't know if he was kind of pulling a rib, and he says Nick Leddy's out there for 3 minutes and 22 seconds on a shift. I guess maybe that was his way of saying there's an Islander still playing in the postseason. But that's St. Louis has definitely made some moves to kind of keep themselves to where they are, and you almost can't count them out. But I mean, going back to Edmonton, what impresses me so much, Justin, also is that earlier in the year, this was a team that had a coaching change, and they bring in Jay Woodcraft, and 26-7-2, I believe his record was. I mean, this was a team.
They really took off.
This was a team, and I remember at the All-Star break.
We've seen this before. When the Pittsburgh Penguins won the Cup, I think
St. Louis a few years ago.
Yeah, they were.
They fired the coach. I think it was Hitchcock who was the coach.
Yeah,
might have been Ken Hitchcock, and then they bring in Craig Berube, and Berube wins the Stanley Cup.
Weren't they the worst team in hockey at one point?
They were in last place in January in the Western Conference, and then the year that the Penguins won the Cup, I believe it was 17. No, it might have been 16 because they won. Remember, they won back-to-back cups.
Was it Bosma
They fired Dan Bilesma and brought in Mike Sullivan.
I was going to say.
So we've seen these mid-season coaching changes turn into teams that go on a run and win the Stanley Cup. So this would not be out of the norm, especially in the NHL. It seems more normal to have a team fire a coach, and it really.
Well, in the NHL, I think it's a little well, the reason I think that is, unlike the other sports, 2 reasons. Baseball is a long season, but NBA is much more of, I think, an individual game. Whereas the NHL, it is kind of a team game. You change a coach, that might all of a sudden give a boost to a locker room. In the Islanders,
and I think the other thing is the GM, the team president, they're looking at all right, let's just get this team to the playoffs, and then anything can happen. So,
it's true.
I mean, hockey is no stranger to the anything can happen rules. It is the biggest. It's the biggest crapshoot, if you will.
Well, remember, in the NHL, unlike the other sports, and I hate to pile on at least baseball and the NBA in the sense that, with the NHL, you get in. All you need to do is to get in. We've seen it before. Edmonton in 2006, right, got into the playoffs. I never forget, got into the playoffs the last day of the season. Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. The Kings won the Stanley Cup as a wild card. The Devils in 2012 got on that big run, right?
The Devils were a 6 seed that year. So, I mean, that finals made history because it was the lowest seeded finals in history. The Devils were a 6 and the Kings were an 8. The Kings were that close from missing the playoffs, and then they bounced the President's Trophy winning Canucks in 5 games after taking a 3-0 series lead. I mean, think about it. They took a 3-0 series lead in every single series.
I always say, if you have a hot goalie, you could ride him right through the playoffs.
And that's what they did. And that's what they did with Jonathan Quick. And, but But Chris, to your point, the Edmonton might be the exception to the rule.
Right.
Because
They
Mike
don't have a
Smith's not
great
playing
goalie.
all that well.
No.
But that's the thing. They don't want to.
And I
Teams
got to
don't.
give a shout out to Joe Wynn, because Joe Wynn, let me tell you about Joe Wynn. Joe Wynn has always shared he's a big wrestling fan, by the way. Joe Wynn is always on my wrestling streams, which get more popular in England than anything else we do here on Sportswire Radio. So thank you, Joe, for tuning in. And he kind of says people still watch hockey. Well, I mean, we're talking about it, right? So that would mean
Yes.
3 of us that watch hockey. And we would have had Billy McInerney, who's under some vocal weather conditions, and then Randy Dillon had some emergency weather conditions. So we would have had 2 other people that watch hockey. So, I mean, yeah, there are some people that watch hockey. And certainly if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan, or if any other teams that are still into the postseason mix, you were definitely watching that. And speaking about one of those teams here locally that I'm sure people want to hear about, that is the New York Rangers. And certainly, I know none of us here are Rangers fans, so it might be a little tough to talk about them, but we have to try to be objective here in sports.
I will say one quick last point
Sure.
on the Oilers before we move on to the Rangers in the Eastern Conference.
Sure.
If you're Colorado or St. Louis, the last thing you're going to want in the conference finals is a track meet. And that's what the Oilers turned it into in the second round, and Calgary couldn't keep up. So I mean, there's going to be a lot. I mean, and you're gonna be putting a lot on the line, because there could, St. Louis could win tonight, and there could be a potential Game 7, and you got the Oilers who are going to be sitting at home resting, getting ready for the conference finals.
I real quick on that, because I
same
think
for the Lightning with the Rangers-Kane series.
Real quick on that, because I will get to the Rangers in a second, but Chris made the point in our Sportswire Radio group on Twitter. If you're a part of the Sportswire Radio family, you're most likely in the group, because I lost count of how many of us are in there. But the point was that, St. Louis does, even if they get to a Game 7, I know some people said, Colorado will still win. But you know what? St. Louis would kind of have the momentum here, because they came back, tied it, down 2 goals against Colorado, were down, found a way to tie it, won it in overtime. If they win here tonight, going into a Game 7, I mean, you almost, in a sense, if you are Colorado, I mean,
you're getting a little
are you
desperate
nervous?
now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you had this unbelievable end-to-end play from Nathan McKinnon with about 2:40 to go.
Yeah, it was under 3 minutes.
And you took the lead 4-3 just for Robert Thomas to tie it and send it to overtime.
Less than a minute left, too. Just what a deflator.
And then St. Louis wins it in overtime. So,
could you imagine being there as a fan? Could you imagine what a deflator that has been? Somebody that's been to a ton of playoff hockey games that the Islanders were in, having a game tied like that when you're going to clinch a series, boy. If I'm a fan,
I was watching the end of that game the other night, and you could see the elation on the Colorado bench as they're celebrating McKinnon's goal. They think that's it, and
can't blame them.
And then they tie it, and St. Louis gets the goal in overtime, and now they're gonna have to make a comeback, down a goal in the third period, or else we're going to Game 7.
I'll tell you what, they very well could be going to Game 7. And what's mind-boggling to me, and I had forgot about this, the last time the Colorado Avalanche even got to the Western Conference Finals was way back in the time machine of 2001, when it was the Raymond Bourque Colorado Avalanche that won the Stanley Cup. They beat the New Jersey Devils in 7 games
since then.
And think about how many good teams they've had over the last 10, 15 years.
Absolutely.
Right? They've been really good.
Most of the last 5 to 10, like the mid 2000s, they kind of went through a lull where they weren't that good. But ever since like 2012, 2013, they've really started the last decade. They've been a very good team. And the last couple of years, they've had like the top, either the President's Trophy or the top points in the Western Conference or close to it. And, they really haven't had the postseason success. They've really been one of the more disappointing franchises. And it's pretty much Stanley Cup or bust right now. And
I think if they
I could go out on a limb and say that if they lose to the Blues and go home, I can make a case for them firing Jared Bednar.
Yeah,
why not?
At some point,
I'm still surprised Mike Sullivan came back in Pittsburgh. And he's got 2 Stanley Cups. I'm still surprised after 4 straight first-round exits that he's still coached there. I mean, so maybe there's patience in Colorado, but if you blow a 3-1 series lead where you're basically about to clinch it, and then you lose on home ice in a 7th game and lose 3 times in your home building when you're the best team in the conference and one of the best teams in the league. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
that's
would
not gonna go
definitely
well.
be disappointed there. And speaking of series here where somebody's going to be disappointed, we have the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Rangers, and Carolina continues their home magic. I mean, certainly they have almost the Midas touch at home there in Raleigh. They're 7-0 in the postseason, but oddly enough, they're 0-5 on the road right now currently, and we will have a 6th game tomorrow night at the Madison Square Garden between the New York Rangers, the Blue Shirts, and those Carolina Hurricanes. And I mean, what do you guys think? Does Carolina finally get a win here at home or on the road, or is it
I
going to
don't
go back to
think
home
so.
there?
I
What do you
would
guys
bet
think?
on it. The Rangers have been playing great at home.
Mhm.
So I would say Rangers are going to force the game 7, and then, as we know, game 7's anything can happen. But I mean, like you said, Carolina's got magic at home, so I would definitely give them
And
the
that's
edge
a
at home.
loud play.
Game
That's a
7.
tough building to play in. It's
I
become
know.
all of a sudden the last few years.
Yeah.
Chris, we can attest to it as Islander fans when the Islanders went up there in 2019, and that's a
Yeah.
loud building. That's a
Yep.
loud place.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen nothing from the Hurricanes that makes me believe that they can win a road playoff game at this point. I mean, they went they even went 0-3 against Boston, and
Yep.
there was not one.
They weren't
of
even
those,
competitive in those games. I was
no,
watching.
there was not one of those games where you said that you thought that they should have won that game. No,
Mm.
Boston was the better team each time when the series shifted to the TD Garden, and the same case can be made for games 3 and 4. Now, if you're the New York Rangers, you are very, very disappointed to be down 3-2 in the series.
Even the way you played also last game.
Well, not only that, and they were horrendous last night, but the fact that the only game of the series in which the better team did not win was game 1. The Rangers were the better team for the first, 58 minutes.
Yep.
And then Sebastian Aho gets the game-tying goal. And then Ian Cole, who has 2 goals all season, gets the game-winning goal in overtime.
It always happens that way.
And if you're Carolina, you got to be feeling good about yourself because you did come away with that win on home ice. And then you played a very strong game too, but then you didn't look like the same team in games 3 and 4. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what adjustments Rod Brindamore has to make.
Well, let me ask you a serious question, Justin, because you were a baseball player in high school. You obviously understand the whole home and road thing. It is kind of peculiar and bizarre. I don't know if I've seen something in recent memory. I mean, the 87 Twins came to mind. They were like ridiculously good at home and couldn't win a game on the road. I mean, there are teams, I'm sure, that are certainly missing off the top of my head. But why do you think that is? Is it that much more difficult to play on the road, Justin? I mean, what do you think?
I don't think that's that. I think that the Canes are a team that truly feeds off. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
We knew that.
And
was
Mr. John Gonzalez of the Sports Authorities Group, you should know that the brute force Brad Weiss will not be joining us because he's either going to have his heart broken tonight at Citi Field or he's going to be a happy man on the ride home to Long Island. So it's either going to be one of those, but he's here with us in spirit.
Yes. But to finish my point, I think the Canes just feed off of the energy from PNC Arena so much that there is almost like the air gets let out, and when they're on the road, and they have a tough time silencing opposing crowds. And one thing that we saw in the Pittsburgh series was Pittsburgh's ability to silence the MSG crowd in both games 5 and 7 by getting up.
Yep.
And, obviously the Rangers came back and won those games, and we knew that they're a very resilient group. So right now, there's no reason for me to believe that the Rangers aren't going to win game 6. And, that's going to give us a game 7 on Monday. But, I still could see anything happening. And, they're 2 evenly matched teams. And
do you think so? Because I feel like Carolina still has a little bit of the upper hand on the Rangers. If I took a top
I would say I say it's neutralized just because of the fact that Igor Shesterkin is a lot better than Antti Ranta. Now, let's give Antti Ranta credit. He's played pretty well in the series. I think except for game 4, he really was not all that great. But for the most part, Rounds has been very solid in the series, and I think they're two evenly matched teams. And the one thing that the Rangers have that the Canes don't is star power.
I agree with you on that.
They're more of a balanced group. I mean, yeah, you could say Sebastian Aho's probably their closest to a superstar, but he's a solid player.
Yeah, is he really?
Vinny Trocheck's a solid player. Nino Niederreiter is a solid player. They got solid players.
But that's what wins it this time of year. You know that in this sport, unlike any other, these are the players that win it.
Yeah, I mean, now Mika Zibanejad, since they were down 3-1, he's really come alive for the Rangers. What I need to see from the Rangers is Artemi Panarin to wake up.
And I know this pains you to say that too, by the way, Justin.
Artemi Panarin needs to wake up.
Yeah, he's had a bizarre postseason. I know he had the winning goal in the Pittsburgh series, but not the greatest of postseasons here so far.
I didn't check the final stats, but I know, and they only had 17 shots on goal last night. But for most of the game, Panarin had no shots. And he's being too tentative.
You can't play 18, 19 minutes in this league and not have a shot. If you're a star player,
especially at the star power level that Panarin is. And I don't know. I feel like he's being too tentative. I don't know if he's hurt or what, but I feel like his aggressiveness is gone. I think John's 100% right on this. I mean,
I think most people feel that way.
Both teams are going to beat each other into submission in this 7-game series, but neither team is even close to as good as Tampa, because Tampa's the only team that I can say that the Rangers don't have the goaltending advantage. I would give that to Andrei Vasilevsky.
Well, let me ask you guys both this question, because that's a great transition. And again, thank you to John Gonzalez for that, because I do want to talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning here in a second here. And I have a weird message on Facebook from Andrew Riccadella talking about my voicemail, which I don't have a voicemail set up, Andrew. So if you heard something, I don't have a female voice that's sending out my voicemail. So if you are listening, I don't have a female set up. But Tampa Bay right now, they could be very well. People give me weird messages all the time. Somebody I know actually is a supporter of ours, but people are strange, as Jim Morrison famously sang. But Tampa Bay could very well be that dynasty right now. And I want to ask you guys, and I'll go with Chris first, and I'll go with Justin. I mean, Tampa Bay, I don't know if even McDavid can beat Tampa, because look at what they did to Toronto. They easily dispatched Florida, which Florida, oh, by the way, had basically the best record in the entire league. I mean, I don't know who's beating Tampa right now, because Tampa's been here, and they're trying, I think, to do something really special, which we talked about in the last couple of weeks, that have won 3 straight championships. It's been far and few done, going back really since the Lakers run.
Right. Yeah, no, it is. It's an amazing thing with, like I've said before, with the salary cap and free agency, you just don't see 3 straight anymore. It's just not supposed to happen with the way that the financial structure is, but it's just amazing. And I don't think it's being talked about enough. Maybe it will when they get to the finals. It will be. But to win 3 straight, even to win back-to-back, we've seen is almost impossible now, right? Yeah. So to win 3 straight is just crazy. I don't see Carolina or the Rangers beating them. So Tampa Bay should be in the finals against it'll be great. I brought it up in our conversation. It'll be pretty amazing if Edmonton has a shot to stop their.
I'd like to see Edmonton
stop the last 4 in a row with the Islanders back in the early 80s. So
Islanders got to 5 cups in a row, by the way, which is you think about that. That's like
that would have been 5 in a row.
Unbelievable. Take a step back. 5 straight trips. I know the Yankees had the 4 straight World Series appearances and 5 out of 6, but for the Islanders to have did what they did, even if you're not an Islanders fan, 5 straight trips to a finals. That's like unheard of. And John Gonzalez has a great point. He says, I like Tampa all the way, but the Oilers could knock them off. McDavid is playing like Gretzky. John, I couldn't agree with you more.
Actually, no, I'll do you one better. McDavid looks like he's playing better than Gretzky.
All right, well, it's Gretzky.
But the reason why I say this is I think he's a faster skater.
Well, he can shoot a little more.
Yeah, and he's more physical. one thing we never really saw from Gretzky was the physicality.
Yeah, he wasn't. He always had to have
bodyguard.
a goon with him.
Yeah, what was his name? Marty McSorley.
McSorley.
Yep,
That's
there you go.
it even a little bit was like
one
that.
of the things, and that's what's impressed me so much about Connor McDavid is that he's putting his body out there, and he's laid some big hits. He laid some big hits in that Calgary series. He's one to not afraid to mix it up. I think his body frame is built a little bit better.
Well, certainly Gretzky. Listen, like I said, Gretzky definitely wasn't mixing it. Anybody that remembers Gretzky, or even looking at the hockey cards, if you have still of a Wayne Gretzky, which I am fortunate to have a few in the old card collection. Gretzky was definitely not a physical player. I mean, certainly.
And nobody was able to touch him either back then.
No,
not
at all.
McSorley made sure nobody was touching that guy.
Well, and that's why. Well, unfortunately, then we got John Gonzalez. Great comment. He says Gretzky was a magic man. That's saying a lot that he's better than the Goon. Yeah, I kind of agree with John. John, you got some good comments there. You just wait till Rob Marassa comes on here in about 20 minutes. So he'll have a lot more also to speak about. I'm sure on baseball he'll fire us up here. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Gretzky had 200 plus points in a season several times. I mean, I understand.
Nobody's denying Gretzky's not the greatest. I mean, he's the greatest of all time. That's hands down. But there are certainly different traits to McDavid's game that Gretzky didn't have. That's really my point.
Yeah, I know that I could see in that Gretzky had certain traits, but McDavid has all the traits. Now, that's certainly a fair point. It was crazy. Actually, speaking of Gretzky, unrelated, I was actually looking last week because I see him obviously from time to time on the NHL TNT pre- and post-game shows that they do, and guy had almost 3,000 points in the league. I mean, even his last year in the league, he averages close to a point a game at, at the age of almost 40. I mean, just stuff. And that was his worst season of his career. Think about that. He averaged just about a point a game. That's his worst year of his career. We talk about now in the NHL, certainly McDavid and Draisaitl, there's a few other players, but you average a point a game now, you're pretty much guaranteed to be in like the top 5 or 6 in the league.
Yep.
And John comments here, Tom, I graduated from the brute force school of foot. No, I think you graduated from a little bit more of a higher school than that, because the brute force school of knowledge, I mean, that might be more like on the community college level. The John Gonzalez school of, well, he's not here, the brute force, so I can certainly come up with the one-liner here, but the John Gonzalez School of Sports is definitely more like the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, whereas the Brute Force Brad Weiss's School of Sports is more like you figure it out, because I don't want to make somebody feel bad, or God forbid, because we've got so many people out there that listen to us, whether through a stream or listening to us on sportnarium.com/player. And you are listening to us right now live on Sportzwire Radio, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and also our flagship on sportnarium.com/player. I am the host of the Sports Report in the station manager of Sportswire Radio. The Reverend Tom Bryson, alongside me, speaking all the things related here to the world of sports, is Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter Show. Of course, also a proud Lyndhurst Golden Bears graduate and former baseball player. Of course, our boys won a championship and brought some gold home. We'll talk about that later on. And Chris Pizzaio's got a New York Yankees shirt. They might be bringing some gold home this year, because they are off to a strong start. And certainly he is the strong co-host of the Talking Rivals show. You can go to talkingrivals.com and get your fix of Talking Rivals content on YouTube, or direct links. You guys are, I know, on Spotify, Apple, and all other podcast outlets. Also, sportnarium.com/player. Also, the Liftoff Jets, which just completed their 52nd episode. Wow. I mean, I love when all these podcasts that we have on Sportswire Radio give me like the episode numbers, because I think about it. I say, wow, that's a long time. Like 70 episodes. I see 65, 52. And the Pinstripe Chronicles have 189. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, I didn't realize that people
do a lot each week.
That's true. Yeah, they do like shows, like multiple shows. They're probably doing a show as we speak, like Pinstripe Chronicles episode number 84, and we're going to talk about.
I even did one with them this week too.
I listened to it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I definitely, I try to. I like to play some of these shows overnight so I can catch it and listen to it. So that was fun. Certainly, we had a lot of banter, and if you like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, you can definitely give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our content on sportnarium.com/player. And we're talking all things related to the world of sports. We'll spend a few more minutes on the NHL, then we'll transition to baseball. We'll see what Rob Maraska thinks. I want to run down some thoughts on the league. We'll get into some stuff, different things, and NHL score real quick when it comes to the Avalanche and the Blues. We have right now, it's 2-1 St. Louis, 17 minutes and 38 seconds left there. So that'll certainly be, if you're a fan there in that building, you'll definitely have the longest 17 minutes and 38 seconds of your life here. And anything else you guys want to add here when it comes to the postseason before we transition to baseball? I'll give it to Justin, then I'll go to Chris because I have
one more quick thought on the Lightning and
Sure.
what they're doing, because it's just it's just absolutely incredible. But we talk about the salary cap era and the era where guys change teams left and right. The fact that the main core of the Tampa Bay Lightning are still together from, forget the last two finals.
I'm thinking like 2014 against the Rangers.
The 2015 Stanley Cup final when they lost to the Chicago Blackhawks. You had Steven Stamkos. You had Victor Hedman, Nikita Kucherov, Andre Palat. Vasilevsky was a rookie that year. He played sparingly, but it was mostly Ben Bishop that year. But, the fact that the main core of your team is still together.
Very hard in the salary cap.
It's impressive. And John Cooper is a terrific coach.
And we sort of course, kind of have a local tie because he was obviously going to college here on Long Island at Hofstra. So always like to have that local, kind of a local. I mean, he was from Canada, but went to school here. But yeah, it is impressive, Justin, I will say, because I'm still having bad nightmares of the 2016 postseason with the Islanders and the Lightning being there at those games. A lot of those players from that core were actually there still, although unfortunately Steven Stamkos, if I recall correctly, was hurt in that series. Actually had a bad
he's had his share of injuries, and I think that's why this has been the more satisfying for this team because what he's gone through. I think it was the 2020 Cup he didn't play in.
No, he didn't play. I think he didn't play. He certainly didn't play against the Islanders. And
right.
Certainly want to read off a couple of comments once again. Want to I'll put Aunt Laura's back up in a minute. But John Gonzalez, happy birthday to that Brooklyn legend, Anthony Finkel. Yep, absolutely, definitely. That is, and John Gonzalez gives me a trivia question. Where did the Carolina Canes come from? Well, they came from Hartford, right? The Hartford Whalers.
Yeah.
Is that or is there a trick question here? I mean, is there a trick? I'm pretty sure it was the Hartford Whalers. I remember when the Whalers moved to Carolina. That was 1997, right, John?
And they still have one of the cooler uniforms. Hartford.
I always like the Whalers jerseys. Yeah. If anybody played like the old NHL games on Sega, I always liked those Whalers jerseys. They weren't really any good, the players that they had. I mean, but in terms of their jerseys, they always looked well. And
they never did much. They never had much success.
They were kind of like the Winnipeg Jets of the East. The old what would they call them? It was the Campbell Conference, and what was the other conference? Just to call it the Campbell. And I'm trying to think of the other conference. Was the Adams Conference or the Adams Division? It was the Norris Division, the Adams Division, the Patrick Division. Right? There was the Smythe Division. I think those old divisions. But I'm thinking back to the way back in the time machine. But yeah, Hartford did come from Carolina. Aunt Laura also says good luck to the Rangers. Yeah, definitely. We'll see here. And Anthony Finkel, happy birthday to the Brooklyn legend, who I was actually not too far from his neck of the woods earlier this week out there on Avenue X and East 22nd Street. So I'm surprised that I did hear that Aunt Laura says you guys are sports encyclopedias. Well, Aunt Laura, I've said the story 1,000 times. I was a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So I not that I am quite a millionaire. I'm not going to say quite a millionaire, but I was on there and I did do the tryout. So, I mean, I guess that could help me a little bit, but I'll defer to Justin and Chris because they're a lot better looking and a lot smarter than me. So certainly all credit to them because they're the guys that make things work on Sportswire Radio. But, and for just, and Laura says, get out. Yes, I did back. In fact, I'll even recite the story here before Rob Marassa comes on 2007. My mother was like, well, you should try out for this. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I get this email thing. You should try out for it. And I did. Obviously, I didn't win, and I didn't win the contest, but I did. I went to the ABC studios, and we have here Anthony J. Finkel, once again laughing, and happy birthday to you. If you missed it, I will recite it one more time. Happy birthday to Anthony J. Finkel, of course, a dear friend, one of my longtime friends, and I know Steve Saperstein put me on the record basically giving you a big happy birthday shout out, but I didn't need that, obviously, in terms of that. I was going to do it anyway. I know that your birthday is coming up here. We're literally just a few short hours away from that. And thank you, Anthony, for all you do for us. Thank you for all you do for our great communities out there in Southern Brooklyn and Kensington, Ditmas Park, Flatbush, and the surrounding neighborhoods. Obviously, DPH Property Maintenance has always been at the forefront of making our communities greener and beautifying them and making them better places to live. And I'm looking forward to your birthday, although the weather's not going to cooperate, it looks like, tomorrow there at the Marine Park Golf Course. But we will see if we can get out there. I thank you for all that you do for us. Also, follow Anthony J. Finkel on Instagram, Twitter, also DPH Property Service. And Anthony, I'm looking forward to one day getting you on the stream. One of these days, you got to come on the video, Anthony Finkel. And you got a fresh cut now. You're better looking than me. You obviously got more of the girls than I do. So we definitely got to get you on the camera
too. I think we need John Gonzalez to come on.
Well, if John Gonzalez comes on, Brad Weiss won't be able to fit on it because John Gonzalez will just take up such a screen that Brad Weiss the internet will be able to connect. So I mean, between John Gonzalez and the Brute Force, I mean, I don't know if it'll be Sportswire Radio will be big enough for the two of them. It almost could be like a wrestling match. I mean, throw Anthony J. Finkel in there.
Put him in a steel cage. Let's go.
You know what? Listen, make Anthony J. Finkel the special guest referee. Between the three of them, you're probably talking about close to 20 feet in size. So, I mean, certainly that could very well be something that we could work upon. But, yeah, we can get John Gonzalez on the show. I don't know why John Gonzalez hasn't wanted to come on the video. I think a lot of people on the Sports Authorities group would want to have him on. I mean, we're talking, 4,000 members strong? I'm sure at least 1% of those members would listen, maybe even 10%. Who knows how much?
I've been telling him he should come on. I think he's part of the show, basically, right?
So what has he told you? What has he said? You asked him to come on. What was his response?
He was like, I don't know if Tom will let me on. I'm like, Tom will want you on. Are you kidding?
We let Rob Roscoe on. He can barely.
He lets us on. Why not let John Gonzalez on?
Well, I mean, you guys are carrying the station. Nobody knows me. I'm a nobody. So listen, without you guys, we wouldn't exist. I mean, so.
But to me, he's part of the show because he's always, he always gives comments.
Well, he should because you know what? In wrestling, we had this whole thing where one of the wrestlers, for whatever reason, wouldn't come on. He was been on like 50 of my streams, and then finally he's like, "Well, I'm coming on." So I mean, and John chimes and says, "You're killing me, Chris." Well, I mean, he puts you on the record there, bro. I mean, if you want to come on, John, I mean, listen, I'll send you the invite right now. You want the invite?
Go. Come on down.
All I gotta do is.
I'd rather see him come on. I'll be honest. I'd rather see him come on when the Brute Force is on.
Well, that will be next week. Well, I'll tell you what. if you want to save the drama, if you definitely want to save the drama out there, and you want to make people on the suspense, I mean, John, if you want to come on 9:30 Friday night next week, I'm here every Friday, rain, sleet, or snow, or sun is shining or not. I'm like Vince McMahon. I don't take days off. I don't sleep. I mean, 9:30 p.m. If you're interested, you're available. I mean, I'll let you come on. Listen, I'll give you the microphone. Listen, we now actually have. We announced it on Sportswire Radio earlier in the year for our British wrestling crowd. We actually have one of the wrestlers who actually was so outraged at what I had to say. He's actually taking over one day on Sportswire Radio. Wow. He actually said, you know what? I've had it with you. I've had it with the comments. I'm going to host and I'm going to interview different people so you can take the microphone out of my hands and go ahead and do it. So, I mean, John, the floor is yours. I mean, if you want to think about it, if you want to ponder it, I know it's a big Memorial Day weekend. You got a lot on your plate. You got hot dogs and hamburgers to cook. You got Sports Authority group member meetings. I mean, if you want to think about it, I mean, you let me know. I ain't going anywhere. I'm not a hard man to find. So, I mean, the call is yours. Certainly the Brute Force, Brad Weiss, will make him aware of it on Instagram. I'll definitely post a clip out there, and I'm sure that the Brute Force would welcome the challenge. He'd welcome the challenge. Listen, and here's how I'm going to put your heart at rest, John Gonzalez. If we could have the Pinstripe Chronicles guys on here, like Bobby Tats, and when he was with us, Evan Wetzel, if those guys could be on here, they could be on the stream. Anybody else could be on. Because, I mean, we had some streams with Evan, and I like the guy, God bless him, but all he said was, Jets suck, Yankees suck. You can't do as worse as that. You can't do it. All he said was Jets suck, Yankees suck, and was angry at everybody. So you can't do. And I like the guy, but you can't do as worse.
I think he'll do better than that.
So I say why not?
I think he'll do better than that.
Challenge is definitely, hopefully, be accepted here. I mean,
I hope he joins us, man. I love John's comments. I love them.
And I tell you what, I think a lot of people, added viewership would come in. People like to see different people come on. Listen,
Yep.
we do wrestling all the time. We get hundreds and hundreds of listeners every time. We get new people that follow and listen. So we had 2 DJs today. People, they want new material. So John, I'll even give you the microphone. I'll step away from sports.
There you
You
go.
can have it. You can. Nobody wants to hear me anymore. Nobody wants that. So listen, why not, John? Listen, I'm putting you on the spot. I expect an answer at some point here. So let's transition to baseball because you know what? I think we've had enough hockey talk for now. And Randy Dillon's not going to join us, and Robert Ross is going to be here in about 5 or 6 minutes. So we'll get to some of his thoughts on things. And Justin, how you feeling right now? What's the Mets score? How you feeling right now? Let me take your temperature right now.
Right now, okay. We're up 8-6 at the top of the 8th. I'm interested. It's interesting that Buck Showalter went with Joely Rodriguez to start the 8th, not Seth Lugo. I know Kyle Schwarber was the
resident Met killer, Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, he was the leadoff hitter in the inning, and he drew a walk, but now he's got 3-2 on Gene Segura. So we will see. Oh, come on. Oh, no.
And John Gonzalez has responded. He said, I need to practice taking on the Brute is a tall order. Yeah, but you're a big man, though, John. Look at the photo. Look at the photo of this guy. He looks like, John, I hate to say this, but you almost look like a taller version of Ray Liotta almost. Anybody told you? God rest his soul, Ray Liotta. But
who's taller, him or Brute Force?
Well, I can't tell in a Facebook photo. Brad, I know Brad. I've seen Brad in person. I covered Brad's basketball
career. How tall is Brad?
Brad's 6'3", about 6'3" and a half.
Okay.
Steve Saperstein, a friend of mine, Anthony Finkel knows, is about 6'4" almost, and Anthony Finkel's about 6 foot. Yeah, about 6'2". I'm about 6 foot, and I'm short compared to those guys. John says he's 6'3". There you go. John, you're 6'3". So obviously, we can match up then, John. Listen, what's stopping you then? I don't see what's stopping you here. Listen, Rob Maras is coming on here in a couple minutes. We'll get his thoughts, but 8-6 Mets. All right, so we'll come back to the Mets with Rob Maraskis, and let's go to the Yankees here because I actually am kind of dying to talk some Yankees. I kind of feel like in some ways, not that the Yankees get lost in the shuffle a bit, but everybody gets excited when the Mets are doing well. But the Yankees, ho hum, the Yankees going into action were only 32-13. Which is to me very, very, very impressive considering everything. And they had another impressive performance here in Tampa. 2-0. Chris, run down the week that was here for the Yankees in 33-13. They've got some distance in their own right from the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I think coming into this series, you know what? We had just taken the 2 out of 3 against the Orioles.
Because I heard people complaining the Orioles didn't get swept by the Yankees. I'm like, you still won 2 out of 3. Well, come on.
Would be nice, right? It would be nice to sweep, of course, but the bad thing was, we got the bad news. Stanton went on the IL.
What a surprise.
James Donaldson went on the IL.
Well, Donaldson might be good. For his voice going on the injury list, that might be a good one.
Yeah. I don't know. Chad Green is done for the year. Chapman went on the IL. So we're adding guys on the IL every day. That's the bad part. But the good thing is, guys are just stepping up. We signed Matt Carpenter.
Yep, I saw that. I kind of like the Carpenter move here. I like the Carpenter move.
Hey, it's you got nothing to lose, right? You picked him up off of
always a good player. Always one of those typical St. Louis Cardinals good players.
The one thing that you got to be impressed about is the pitching, right? Yep. Yesterday Cortez pitched unbelievable. Then tonight Tyone 8 innings, no runs. I don't know. Listen, I don't know what they're giving them. Or, we got to give credit to Matt Blake, the pitching coach. It's just amazing what he's done with these guys. Cortez was dumped 2 or 3 times before he came back.
What amazes me so much, and we'll get Rob Moroskin here in a minute. He has joined us. But Cortez, you're paying literally peanuts to. He's literally getting paid peanuts, and you got him
Less
under
than
your
$1
control for a while. Yeah, $700,000, I think it was.
Yeah.
$760,000.
Probably the lowest amount.
John Gonzalez says Gallo and Hicks need to get. We were talking about that for weeks.
I agree, John. I think they want to get rid of them, but it's who's going to take Hicks with his contract. Gallo, you might be able to get rid of because
I still feel like Gallo, as crazy as this sounds, I feel like Gallo will go somewhere else and be a good ball player. Hicks, I might agree with John on because I do think that Hicks, he sucks. But Gallo, he gets
Colorado just tied it up.
There you go. There. Well,
You
now
too.
that's fun, Justin. We got what you wish. We'll have some maybe overtime hockey here, and
The
I'm
thing
gonna.
with Gallo, though, I think Gallo mentally, I don't think he's comfortable here. You know what I mean? You could
We
tell.
see it all the time in New York.
Yeah.
Remember, listen, Randy Johnson was an example. That Ed Winston years back is going
We
back
could go,
to the
yeah,
Yankees,
we can name a
man.
lot. Sonny
There's a lot.
Gray.
Sonny
Paul
Gray.
O'Neill said it right, and I don't know if he's the first one who said it, but he goes, "The pinstripes are heavy when you get here.
You
They're
know
heavy
what?
to put
Even
on."
Dave Winfield, believe it. And I know Dave Winfield had good numbers, but you never felt like Dave Winfield was a Yankee. I mean, there's a lot of players. You can go on. It's a long list. Kevin Brown. I mean, just a long list of guys that were
He didn't do
Yankees.
well.
Paul Cabano. I
Yeah.
mean, listen, Kenny Lofton famously. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
number of players that, were great baseball card numbers, and as Yankees didn't quite put it up. And Joe Wynn says Commanders to the Super Bowl, which is like the most random thing before I get
Okay.
on to Rob Maraska. But yeah, I mean, look, Joe, I would love for you to say that when the Brute Force Brad Weiss gets on the air, because one of Brad and myself's friends actually works for the Washington Commanders in the ticket office. So he would love to hear that, certainly. And John says Ellsbury. Yeah, Jacoby Ellsbury, good point.
Oh.
Forgot about him. I see no motivation with Hicks. And let's bring on here, obviously, our longest tenure because we're talking some baseball a little early, and that is Rob Morosky with the New York Mets shirt. Now, what Met player is that you have on, if you don't mind me asking?
No Met player.
Oh.
Just a Queens Met shirt.
Oh, nice.
Okay. All right. That's cool. How did you get that shirt? Was it like a contest or something, or how'd you pull that one
just
out?
bought it. I saw it. It looked pretty good.
You know, that reminds me of, like, you guys ever remember going to Modell's and like buying like the T-shirts, like your favorite player or team? That kind of reminds me of something Modell's would sell, which I know Modell's is bankrupt, right? They're out of business.
Yeah.
Well, there goes one place I'd buy my shirts. But hey, I'm wearing a Sportswire radio shirt from one of our shows. But be that as it may, we were talking some Yankees here. We'll come back to the Yankees in a second. But Mr. Moroska, obviously we missed you last week on the show, and happy to have you back here. I know Justin. I was asking Justin has his temperature on the Mets right now. I mean, how you feeling right now with the game? I know the last Justin told us it was 8-6. Should I ask you what your thoughts are on this game is right now, and what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel good with the game. I mean, that 6-run inning was a little crazy, but
all right,
this team, this Met team just keeps coming back. Even though they lost those couple of games, they came back against the Giants, and they fought, and that one game was just exciting. It was back and forth. So these Mets are never dead.
Never say die, certainly. For whatever reason, the Black Sabbath album, Never Say Die, comes to mind. What was that, Justin?
I'm still tired from that Tuesday night game. I went to bed at like 2:15 in the morning because the game ended at like 1:45.
Well, I'm one of the few people, like 1:45 in the morning for me is like prime time. So for me, this is great. I mean, this is great. 2:15. I hope there's sports at 2:15. I don't want to sit around and have nothing on the screen. So I mean, that's great. But I mean, you still, even with this team, I mean, losing the 2 games in San Francisco, and you still feel good. I mean, give me your temperature on the team right now as we go into another series here with the Phillies.
Yeah, I still feel good. They're definitely exciting, and we haven't seen this in a while. And the clubhouse is really good. And they made the right move by getting rid of Cano. We see what he's doing in San Diego. What's he got, like 4 hits? So that
I didn't even want to mention his name. I was almost like, Robertson who?
So that was a good move, and they're just exciting to watch. I mean, right now though, McNeil is like just that guy's so hot. Every time he gets up, he gets a hit. I was going back and forth with Justin during some of the games during the week, and it's just this guy he hits and he hits and he hits, and it's just a good feeling, and they're exciting to watch.
Absolutely. And John Gonzalez has a comment here. He says Bartolo has been working out. Wouldn't be surprised if it happens. He might be a good DH. I mean, we're talking about, like, anybody remember those old blooper shows that they used to show? Like, if you watch, like, there was nothing on during the weekends, they'd show, like, I think it was like Channel 7 or whatever.
Justin was just saying how the DH spot for the Mets has not been doing well. So
no, it hasn't.
No, it really hasn't. It's been a black hole. And you know what? I jumped on the space with Chris and Patrick on their Talking Rivals space. And I was talking about how the Mets really need to do something at the designated hitter spot. I mean, I don't know what the short-term solution is, but Because right now it doesn't really seem like trade season at this point.
Yeah, it's still early. You're
Um,
not going to get teams really, wave the white flag. I mean, and sell, right?
The one thing I'm interested to see in is what they do going forward for a reserve outfielder, because obviously Travis Jankowski suffered a broken finger, I believe it was. Now he's out 6 to 8 weeks. I'd like to see, somebody come up and maybe play, or what you could even do is you could have Jeff McNeil start to play a little bit more left field and have Luis Guillorme start to play more on
It's
an
funny.
everyday basis.
It's funny real quick when it comes to Luis Guillorme, because obviously he's somebody we've spoken about here on Sportswire Radio forever. And I'll get to John Gonzalez in a second, but with earnest stuff, because he knows Luis Guillorme. He knows him from when he was a St. Lucie Met. He knows his father, actually. But Luis Guillorme, a few years ago, Met fans were like, I don't want to see this guy ever play. I can't take him. And now every Met fan says, oh, my God, Luis Guillorme, he's like the most clutch player. He has great at-bats. He's basically a jack of all trades. And it's just funny how fans are so fickle.
He's always been really solid defensively. He's a very good defensive second baseman. And now he's starting to hit with consistency. And I think one of the things that the Mets could do while they're having this conundrum, because J.D. Davis and Dominic Smith have basically been zeros. I mean, yes, the 13-3 win, that was a 4-hit night for J.D. Davis. Great.
The Mets have 18 hits in that game.
Yeah,
I think?
the Sunday night game where the Mets beat up on the Phillies. Dominic Smith had 4 hits that night, but it's like a one-off. It's not happening that often. What I'd like to see as a couple of veteran / a little bit older type players, I'd like to see Mark Canha and Starling Marte DH a little bit more. And then you could put because McNeil has shown he's a very, very capable left fielder. And
McNeil, I think, other than last year, and I don't know what it was about last year. I mean, he's been here a while, and he hits. I mean,
right. But my point being is he plays a good enough left field that you're comfortable putting him out there. Right. And you look at the play he made in San Francisco, and look, everybody breathes a sigh of relief that he's okay. He banged his knee sliding into that wall, but he's been just fine tonight. But he plays a very solid left field where you don't feel like he's a liability. And I think that's where it could take the wear and tear off of Canha and Marte. And, one of those two plays right field. Obviously, you got Brandon in center every day. But the Mets need more production out of that DH spot. I don't know. And look, that's a great point about JD Martinez, but like I was mentioning in this, like we were talking about in the space earlier with Chris and Patrick, the Red Sox are playing better baseball.
I know 21 and 23 with the wild card now. The wild card.
Exactly, and they're not going to be a team that declares that they're totally out of it. Could they still trade JD Martinez because he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year, while still at the same time somewhat going for it? I could see that just because it's an expiring contract. They want to get something for him.
Yeah, but it's Boston, though.
I feel like the guy they would hold on to would be Xander Bogaerts, because that would net a bigger return. Even though it would net a bigger return, he still probably is a bigger help to the lineup. JD Martinez, they might be able to, even though he's having a good year, they might be able to say, well, we'll rotate at DH. We can still part with this piece because we'd like to get something back.
Let me ask you guys a question. I know I brought this up before, and I think it's a name we spoke about, but obviously I look at them, and this could be for Rob, Chris, or anybody else here, obviously. Going off the Boston Red Sox, and John agrees. True, the Bo Sox are playing better. Story has been on fire. Yeah, I mean, the Red Sox, to me.
They just gave up their lead, though, in the ninth inning. They're down 9. They're losing 9-8 now.
Well, then there goes the Red Sox hot talk. So there we go.
Who was closing?
Was it
usually Barnes or Robles?
It was probably Barnes. I don't think it was Robles. No, it was lefty.
Well, 9-8 Orioles in the top of the night.
What's the guy with all the hair? what's his name?
Sorry, I'd like to help you out here.
Yeah. The lefty. I can't think of his name right now.
All right, well, we'll get
Now
you
they
that.
get the Japanese guy in now.
Tomasi?
Matt Stram.
Stram, that's him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just gave up a couple of runs.
Well, we'll come back to the Red Sox game, but let me ask you guys this question because obviously the Mets DH situation comes up, and I'll come into a Rob Morosky here, and we've also heard a lot about the Mets catcher situation. I know Tomas Nido is playing, and there are certainly Tomas Nido fans out there, but when I think of a DH and a catcher, I mean, I look at the Kansas City Royals. We've brought them up here. Obviously, the Talking Rivals guys have talked about Salvador Perez as somebody, and I actually heard it from their show. I think we've mentioned him before also, but I mean, is Salvador Perez somebody that maybe could solve two birds with one stone potentially in the DH situation and maybe some catching? I mean, what's your thoughts, Rob Morosco, on Salvador Perez?
There's a couple of problems. Right off the bat, he's hurt right now, right?
Okay.
He hurt his thumb, I think.
Yep.
So he's out right now. Plus, he's 32 now, 33? And you still got a few years on that contract. So I don't know.
As Tomas Nido just got a base hit.
I mean, I'm sure Kansas City would love to not love, but they probably wouldn't mind trading him. But they would probably want something decent in return.
First of all, I'd have mental problems about them acquiring Salvador Perez.
Oh, I know why, because you're thinking about the 2015.
Yeah, just because he puts on the blue and orange Mets uniform, I don't know that I could shake those horrors.
Well, but that's happened before. I mean, the Glavine played for the Mets and Hershiser played.
I never felt Glavine though really wasn't.
You can't mention Glavine.
Yeah, I never felt Glavine, and he was here for 5 years. That was like, I never really felt he was a Met for 5 years.
No, but it's just that it's the same. It's like the same deal. Except
I didn't lie. You know what? That was right in the height of my childhood and my growing up years. I did not like seeing Glavine in a Met uniform.
Yeah, it was always weird.
Hershiser I didn't really care about because I was not born.
No, Hershiser was here 1 year. It was 1 year. I mean, he was here 1 year.
And now, and in '99, they, that was an exciting year too.
They were good, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, '99, like Hershiser for 1 year, he was a good back end of the rotation guy. I didn't feel, and again, because
I forgot he was on the Mets.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't see. I understand your point, Rob. I didn't grow up in the '80s, so I didn't. By the time Hershiser came to the Mets, that's my formative years. Like Justin's formative years is 2005, 2006, but. I mean, Glavine is a Met. I just never. I don't think baseball fans really ever like got used to that 5 years there in the Met. So,
and the Wilpons, I'll never forget the press conference when they signed Glavine, and the Wilpons said, Tom Glavine will be going in the Hall of Fame with the Mets cap on. I'm like, that was the stupidest thing.
Oh
I'll never forget.
I forgot about that. He said that.
Yeah, he said that.
Oh my God!
And John Gonzalez chimes in here because we're going down memory lane. How about Pedro Martinez? Well, Pedro Martinez, I felt like had a great year, and then half a good year, and then he got injured. It was like, but that 1 year
really caught up to him fast.
Yeah, but he had one great year. So to me, I look at it like he was an important cog. Yeah, he really didn't have a great career as a Met, but he had one super year, and he was kind of.
Pedro Martinez is going to be at Mets Old Timers Day.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
as is the latest announcement was Darryl Strawberry.
Well, Strawberry should be. I mean, why wouldn't Strawberry be at Old Timers Day?
I don't know, but some names have taken longer to leak out as to who's going to be there.
May I ask what other names, especially for the fans listening here on Sportswire Radio, because there's always somebody out there listening. Anybody
Why are
else?
they waiting? Why don't they announce all of them and
get
the ticket sales up? Right?
I thought Steve Cohen would tweet this on Twitter. I thought he would say, "Hey, Are they having names that we don't know about maybe to sell? Yeah, I don't know.
That might be what they're doing, but this is going to be the first time in 32 years that Strawberry's been on the field in a Mets uniform. Think about that, 32 years.
Wow.
I mean, and I was lucky enough to be at Shea many times watching.
We got a few comments in here. I'm going to get to the legendary.
Is Gooden going to be there too?
Doc, yes.
Did anybody see?
Now.
Yeah.
Doc will be there.
Cool.
We got Piazza, Santana, Pedro. We mentioned Tim Tuffle,
Hernandez.
Okay.
Yeah, Hernandez.
John Franco, Keith, Ron. Well, Keith and Ron work, so they can.
Yeah.
Keith and Ronnie work for the team.
And
Al Leiter,
John
Neil, I
Gonzalez,
think.
John Gonzalez is insinuating Lenny Dykstra. I don't think Lenny Dykstra is coming back.
No.
Yeah, I
Lenny
don't know if
Dykstra, for the wrestling fans here, and Jodell's wife Laura would appreciate this. Lenny Dykstra is almost like the Virgil of the New York Mets. Virgil is a wrestler. He was famously kind of like the sidekick to the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. He's become pretty much like, almost like, how can I put this? Like a crackhead almost. Like he's a hobo. It's like kind of like Lenny Dykstra. If I go into
Is
it.
that, is that what Virgil is now?
I heard from some. Yeah, I've heard. In fact, Joe's wife Laura actually told me this on Facebook that basically that Virgil, like he's got bad. He smells bad. I shouldn't be saying this, but if I say what I'm going to say, because I'm friends with like hundreds of wrestlers, I will probably like he'd never hear it again. But,
All right, here I'll dig you out of it. Here's a few more names.
All right, thank God.
Eddie Cranepool,
Obvious.
Frank Thomas.
Oh, 1962 Frank Thomas.
The original Frank
He's still
Thomas.
alive?
Not the big hurt.
I believe so.
Wow.
Ron Swoboda, John Matlack, Felix Mion, Mookie Wilson.
Well, John Matlack makes sense because he just got recently into the Mets Hall of Fame, right? So that makes sense. Felix Mion,
Howard Johnson, Bob Ojeda, Robin Ventura, Turk Wendell, Andy Chavez, Cliff Floyd, Billy Wagner, and
Cliff
Daniel
Floyd
Murphy.
they're honoring? Was Cliff Floyd really memorable as a Met enough that to be honored?
What about Mookie?
I said, yeah, Mookie's there. Billy Wagner and Daniel Murphy.
Well, Murphy, obviously.
Oh, another guy you need is a Roscoe, no?
Not confirmed. I don't think the full list is out. This is updated as of Doc and Daryl, so that's
Felix. Well, two things. Doc and Daryl were on Instagram. They were at a card signing, right? They were at a card signing or some type of thing. That was on Instagram. Felix Mion, little footnote. For a long time, I'm pretty sure of this, held the Mets single season record for hits until Lance Johnson broke it. So let's
wow.
And then Joe Dell says, I rolled a doobie for Greg the Hammer Valentine. Can we if you want to know what a doobie is, I mean, I can't tell you what it is, but certainly if you want to share, Joe Dell, if you want to share a PG story of Greg the Hammer Valentine, of course, former Intercontinental Tag Team Champion who, God rest him, God bless him, is still out there wrestling and doing autograph signings. If you want to share something related to Greg the Hammer Valentine, it's PG. I'll read it off the air. Joe Dell also says Strawman was great. Threw in the bouncers to home plate all the time. Threw in bouncers, meaning from the outfield. He had great throws. And John Gonzalez says Lee Mazzelli. Is Lee Mazzelli going to be there?
Was not.
Oh, okay.
It was not on the list as of recent. So
okay, all right. Lee Mazzelli. I actually have a somewhat sort of connection through a former acquaintance of Lee Mazzelli, but that be that as it may. So, and when is Mets, for those watching and listening, when is Mets?
It'll be Saturday, August 27th. They play the Colorado Rockies.
They waited so late. Why wouldn't they do it in July when it's a little bit more lighter? Why would they wait till August 27th?
I don't understand why they do any of the old timers days in like July and August. I always thought they should do it in like April or May when it's a little cooler. You know,
why not June? Why not first weekend of June? I would think the second weekend of June is perfect. That
before the All-Star break when it's still a little cooler, not when it's 98 degrees. You know, these older guys are playing. I don't know.
Oh my God, you got to be kidding me!
Oh boy,
what do we got?
Oh boy,
the Avalanche have scored with 4.9 seconds to go.
Wow, and they're gonna win here, 3-2.
They will be going to the conference finals.
Wow! So take back everything we said at the top about Colorado and their struggles, because Colorado is about to advance to the Western Conference Finals for the first time since 2001. And John Gonzalez says, "How about King Kong Dave Kingman? Dave Kingman, is he confirmed? I would think that Dave King, a two-time Met.
I didn't see
and
that.
Dave Kingman, actually former Yankee.
Yep.
For sure. Like a week for the Yankees. No, seriously.
About that, yeah.
Darren Helm.
Dave Kingman, correct me if I'm wrong, he's a trivia note because he played for 4 teams in a season, right?
The Padres, the Mets, the Yankees, and I'm trying to think of what the other team is.
Was it the Cubs that year?
Was it the Cubs?
It might be the Cubs, but it was definitely the Padres.
Padres, Mets, Yankees.
Well, the Croc staff is going to give it to us because now you got me. I think
I just remember him playing for the Cubs. That's why.
Here we go. Thanks to the Croc staff for pulling this up here for Dave King Kong Kingman, who, again, had very, very interesting career to say the least. And he played for, drum roll please, the Mets, the Padres, the
Yeah.
Angels, and the Yankees. He played a grand total of 8 games for the Yankees in 1977. Wow, he really made his 8 games as a Yankee really memorable. 4 home runs in 8 games. I didn't realize he hit 4 home runs.
Why did they get rid of him?
I was going to say, why get rid of him?
I don't know. I mean, but they did. And John Gonzalez tells us Kingman once hit a ball out of Olympic Stadium in Montreal. And didn't Darryl Strawberry do that also? Right,
He hit the roof. Strawberry hit the roof.
Well, King Kong was a strong player. There was no question about it. Kind of like the 1970s version of Adam Dunn. If anybody remembers Adam Dunn here a little bit. For Justin and myself's era, he was kind of pretty much that type of play. Yeah, I would think Kingman would have been at Old Timers Day for the Mets. I think he had, 30 home runs at the All-Star break and had a thumb injury or something like that.
Yeah, he was on his way to maybe breaking Maris's record that year, and then he broke his thumb.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm looking at his numbers here. 75, 36 home runs, 76, 37 home runs, came back, 22 home runs in the strike year, 37 home runs, led the National League, but hit 204. He'd fit in today. And then he hit 13 home runs in 1983 in 100 games. And then he finished his career with the Oakland A's, 35 home runs, 30 home runs, 35 home runs. So he definitely made his time here. And Colorado has advanced, Justin?
Yes, they have.
Yep.
First time since 2002 that they've reached the conference finals. So we officially have Avalanche and Oilers start. The series will start in Denver.
Oh, you know what? I'm looking forward to it. That'll be a fun
series. Dates are not announced.
Now, is TNT covering that, and the East is the ESPN, correct? Is that how I read it? ESPN.
Yes, I believe so.
All right.
I'm not sure. I don't think the schedules have come out yet.
Okay.
So I'm not sure.
Well, we have the Rangers still playing in Carolina, so
right?
They're not going to come out with anything. So.
Well, the dates could be put together though, even though. Because the Rangers Kane series is ending Monday no matter what.
Right.
So you would figure game 1's Wednesday. You figure this game 1's probably Tuesday.
Yeah, I think that would make sense, right? Back you have Tuesday, Wednesday. You always do it like one day off.
Every other,
yeah. And they usually play at 9 o'clock. Let me get Rob Morosky because I want to go back to the Yankees because I do want to talk about the Yankees. I want to get some thoughts on the general standings of the Major League Baseball because we got a little bit more of a free reign. We have no Brad Weiss here, and John Gonzalez reminds us here that the Mets traded Dave Kingman for Bobby Valentine. And wasn't Bobby Valentine traded for Nolan Ryan also? Am I getting that mixed up?
I think so.
Was Bobby Valentine in the Nolan Ryan trade back from the Angels and Mets? I'm pretty sure.
No, Jim Fregosi was.
Jim Fregosi.
No, because Valentine came up in the Dodger organization.
Yeah, it was Jim Fregosi. It wasn't Valentine.
Okay. Joe Bell says, "Let's go Rangers."
Kingman was traded on the same massacre night Seaver was traded. That was just horrible. I was a kid. I was
still have bad memories about that. Anytime when the Mets are about to make a trade, you go, "Oh well, gee, that Midnight Massacre there."
That was bad.
Speaking of massacres here, Joe Wynn again. I love Joe because Joe comes up with random comments anytime he comes on here. And Joe's obviously been a staple for some of my wrestling shows here, which a number of the wrestlers kind of get perplexed sometimes when Joe is on, but we appreciate that here. And John Gonzalez has the answer to that, but Joe says Chipper Jones is the true GOAT. I mean, I guess the Mets.
Are you trying to anger me?
Where did that come from?
Joe just his random comments. I mean, we appreciate Joe listening, so we certainly don't want
beating the Mets.
Probably, yeah. I would say beating the Mets. I mean, he was an all-time, Met killer. I would say he's certainly up there. I mean, I would think him and Pat Burrell was another one.
There was a better Brave out there, I think, than Chipper Jones, right?
Oh, well, I mean, there's a guy named Aaron, right? I would say Aaron, right? He was pretty good, right?
Chipper's a Hall of Famer. I'm not putting.
Eddie Matthews was pretty good too, right? I mean, Eddie Matthews wasn't too bad. I mean, he was talking about the Mets. He's a Braves fan, so obviously, Joe, anything you want to ask? Well, listen, we like to get other teams in here because we are on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. So, I mean, Joe, what's your thoughts on the Braves? I mean, we'll talk some Braves if you want for a few minutes. I know some Met fans on the stream will be certainly pained to hear that, but give me your thoughts on the struggles of the Atlanta Braves right now, Joe. Because certainly the Braves are definitely not having the start that they would have liked to have had.
No, and what are they up to tonight? Let's see.
They were 21-24 going into action here today.
Right, and they are. What are they doing tonight?
Did you guys in the Talking Rival space talk about the Braves, by the way? Did you guys mention the Braves? Or
we were touching on them, just saying
a little bit. We talked when we talked about the National League East.
Yeah, well, it's the National League East right now. It's terrible.
Braves won tonight 6-4.
Oh, okay.
behind a home run from Austin Riley. Acuna had an RBI, Contreras RBI. It's a good balanced effort.
Joe Wynn here says you can't win every year. You can be the Mets and never win. Joe's clearly Joe. This isn't wrestling. We're talking sports. I mean, if you want to talk wrestling, that's a wrestling comment. I mean, I mean, you don't offend me, Joe, because I'm okay. You can poke fun at me all day. I have no problem with that. But Rob and Justin are huge Met fans, and we certainly this isn't wrestling. So I mean, if it's a wrestling stream, I have no problem. When you get under the wrestler's skin, because in some sense the wrestlers tell me off the air, they go, oh, that Joe guy, really enjoy when that guy Joe guy comes on, because they're like, oh, is he really going after us? Because the wrestlers always get they like that stuff. The wrestlers love when somebody tries to get them angry, because they're big men, right? They're big guys. But and Joe does clarify, all in fun. See what I mean? I told you guys, Joe. That's what Joe does. Joe, it's like wrestling for Joe. So Joe's good by us. Joe also, by the way, got to give Joe a big shout out, because Joe shares some of our shows on the podcasters and streamers group on Facebook. So Joe has shared our stream. So he is a good friend. So Joe's all right in my book. So and we have here anything on the Braves. You guys, do you want to add anything else on the Braves? Well, we have Joe here. He's a Braves fan. I was like, anything else you guys want to throw out there? I know Rob Maraska hates the Braves, so I know it's kind of pain him to talk anything Braves.
We were talking about it too. I think the loss, definitely the loss of Freeman was is huge for that team. They lost that.
Is that a leadership thing you think that's more about rather than on the field stats?
Yes. That I wholeheartedly agree with that. Definitely. Now, despite the struggles of Matt Olson lately, I still think he'll be fine in the grand scheme of things, but the leadership can't be replaced. Now, I said that one thing that's understated, and I don't think it's talked about enough, is the return of Marcell Ozuna after the domestic violence suspension. And he was hurt last year, so he never came back. He was not really a part of the World Series team. I just wonder what that does for Clubhouse, because you got a guy who is, dirtbag material essentially.
Oh, let me get to a few comments, because let me go to Joe Dell first, then I'll go to John Gonzalez, because Joe Dell's got a comment that probably Rob and Chris would get. Myself and Justin really wouldn't understand the ramifications, but I know what he's talking about. Ted Turner and Jane Fonda made us hate the Braves even more back in the day.
You know what? They didn't. The players did. I could care less about Ted Turner and Jane Fonda.
I actually liked watching the Braves on TBS back in the day before.
Yeah, you know what? I mean,
it was cool.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but they were on exclusive TV. It was them and the Cubs on WGN, right?
Oh yeah, I watched a lot of those games.
Yeah, I think it was cool.
And the Mets were WOR was a superstation everywhere, out of New York. So the Mets were also a team like the Braves and the Cubs that were on a superstation all over the country.
That's interesting. And John Gonzalez says, I don't know why we're going Mets down memory lane, but hey, why not? People listening. The Ryan trade was the worst trade in Mets history, next to the Rusty Staub for Mickey Lolich trade.
That was bad.
The worst trade in Mets history was trading Tom Seaver.
Yeah, of course. But let me tell you, when they traded
Ryan trade's bad though. They're both bad.
When they traded Staub for Lolich, I was I was a kid. I was just,
well, you know what that trade was? I'm gonna try to make people laugh. That's like for those who collected base, and I'm sure all of us did collect baseball cards. That's if you're looking at your baseball card collection and go, Mickey Lolich had a better career than Rusty Staub. That should be a no-brainer, right? But meanwhile, what happened was Rusty Staub went on and had a much longer career afterwards, and Mickey Lolich pretty much he was like a lollipop.
He was finished. He was done by then. Done by then. Another Donald Grant trade.
TBS, the only reason I watched the Braves. Joe Dell says Grand Orange, I believe I'm saying
Grand Orange, Rusty.
Rusty is a Mets legend. Yeah, he definitely was, obviously. Rusty Staub, one of the few players, when you think about baseball history, like every team he played for, they all loved him, right? The Expos fans loved him. The Tigers fans had some good years with the Tigers. They loved him. I mean, certainly the old Colt 45s loved him. I mean, he was one of those guys that, everybody liked him no matter where he played. I mean, one of those few players. And I think he got almost 3,000 hits for his career, right? I think I'm almost pretty sure that Rusty Staub was one of those guys that just hung on so long that he had almost 3,000 hits. And Justin, you got your fist arm. Give me the good news.
Because we're gonna quote the great Howie Rose. We can put it in the books. The Mets have won 8-6. Edwin Diaz closes it out, and the Mets survive this game.
Well, certainly another one bites the dust. The Mets bounce back after back-to-back losses in San Francisco and now have an 8.5 game lead over the Philadelphia Phillies. They're 7.5 games up on the Atlanta Braves. So certainly the Mets have some distance here between themselves. And the Yankees also comfortably have a 6.5 game lead over the Tampa Bay Rays, and they're comfortably in. And speaking of that, let's transition to both teams here for a second. This is I can get Chris in here, get to some Yankees. And I was speaking to somebody about this here, and I'll get to John Gonzalez in a second, but I was speaking to somebody that's a listener of ours that watches our streams back on Facebook, a good friend of mine. He's a big Yankees fan, and we were kind of sharing a laugh about this earlier in the morning. And I said, you think about going into Memorial Day, right? And you think about our lifetimes and even in recent memory, most notably, I couldn't really think of too many times going into the first quarter mark of the season, because Memorial Day is that unofficial first quarter mark, right? That you got the Mets and Yankees in first place and comfortably in first place. I mean, what do you guys think about that? I mean, that's very rare. We see that both teams right now are actually kind of in the same position. We don't see that too often.
No, you know what? And I think we're headed for a Subway Series, And I hope not, because I'll be honest.
Why not? Tell me why you don't hope not. Tell me why.
Because the 2000 World Series was the most stressful 5 games of my life, right?
Okay.
And I think Joe Torre said it right. He goes,
Islanders Rangers playoffs wasn't stressful?
Not as much, I'm telling you.
Okay, all right, because Islanders Rangers was heated. There was some heated ones.
No, you know why? Because the Rangers were supposed to win that, right? To me, the Rangers are the Yankees in the city, right? The Yankees are the big brother, I guess. You want to say it. I don't want to say it that way, but you know what I mean.
I know.
So
we're secondary.
In the Subway Series, the Yankees they can't win that series no matter what. Because if they win, it's like, they're supposed to win it. They're the Yankees.
Right.
Just like you're saying, like the Yankees are kind of an afterthought almost about how good they're doing.
I kind of think they are, because everybody, when the Mets win, it's like, oh my God, Mets fans come out of the woodwork.
That's kind of, you were right. And it's kind of the same way in the World Series. When they went into the World Series, it was like, oh yeah, the Yankees are going to win it. No big deal. Who cares, right? And that's why. So if they won it, it was like, they're supposed to win, right? It's Yankees Mets. But then if they lose, forget it. Now it's, the little brother finally beats the big brother, whatever antidote you want to use. But that's why. And if it's going to be this year, it'll be the same thing. It'll be the most stressful for a Yankee fan. It'll be the most stressful World Series we've ever played, because
really,
just because it's the Mets and you don't want to lose to the Mets. Not on the big stage. And it's one thing to lose to them during the regular season. It's like, all right, we'll get you next year. It's no big deal.
And the Yankees didn't and out of those teams, the Yankees really didn't even have that great of a year.
No, in 2000, not at all.
No, they only
lost the last 13 games.
87 games that year.
They lost the last 13 games of the season. They backed into the postseason, literally.
Right. Absolutely. They weren't good at all.
The Mets won 94 games that year, and because of the Braves' dominance in the division,
won the wild card.
94 wins was a wild card.
Yeah, we finished, I think, like 3 games out of first place. We finished. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they won 97.
Yeah, we played, I think, Oakland in the playoffs.
Oakland the first round, Seattle in the championship series. Yep.
It was the flip play.
Yep.
It's just no. The flip play was 0-1.
Oh, right. Okay.
2000 was still a 5-game series. In Seattle, you played the last A-Rod team as a Mariner back in 2000. That was the
right.
Mariners.
Is that when Clemens threw like the 9-inning? What did he throw? A two hitter?
I think so.
Like 14 or something.
I think so.
Against
that was
Seattle.
Yep.
And the Mets had a great series against the Giants in the playoffs.
Yes. He had a walk-off win, right, in that game?
Yeah.
In that series?
Benny Agbayani hit a home run. I was at all the playoff games.
That was the one what was it? Finley almost caught?
No, that was
99. And
that was 99.
All right.
That was the Giants Mets was the Bobby Jones one hitter, right? That the series.
And then I believe it was either game 4 or game 5, the big strikeout, Franco striking out Bonds.
That was game 2, I think, in San Francisco.
Right. Okay. So, but I mean, do you think about the difference of the two teams? I mean, the Yankees had to go the full 5 in the first round against the A's.
Yeah, the Yankees
Meanwhile, the Mets dispatched the Giants in 4, and then they beat the Cardinals in 5 games.
Those were good teams that Mets dispatched of too, rather quickly.
And the Mets did it rather easily, going 7-2 to get to the World Series. You know.
So for you, Justin, though, I mean, I'm gonna because I got some comments. I'll get to them in a second. But would you want a Subway Series? I mean, for you, is it stressful as it is for Chris? I mean, walk me through that.
Yeah, I want the Yankees losing 100 games. So I don't want the Yankees in the World Series. No,
I do notice you are kind of one of those fans. If you hate a team, you hate the team. I appreciate that, though. I appreciate.
You know what? I don't have like this sheer hatred for the Yankees. I would just don't want to see him in the. I just don't want to see him.
You hate him less than the Rangers, then. That's obvious, right?
What?
You hate him less than the Rangers.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, well, I can sympathize with that.
But you know what it is? The Rangers aren't even the most hated team in my fandom. It's the Flyers.
Well, as somebody that's been to games with the Philadelphia Flyers, I can certainly.
D-bags.
But
I mean, if the Mets are going to get to the World Series, I'd rather face the Astros or the White Sox or something.
All right,
some nondescript team.
I'm going to ask you, Rob Moroska, then. I mean, right now, both teams are in first place comfortably. It hasn't happened too often. I'll get to the comments in a second. But, I mean, would you want a Subway Series again? Do you want to avoid the Yankees? Are you like Chris and it's too stressful for you? I mean, what do you think here?
Nah, here's how I feel.
Okay,
I'd rather the Mets be playing a weaker team in the World Series, of course. But then again, I would just love to see the Mets win a World Series against the Yankees once in my lifetime. You know, I saw them lose it. I was at Shea Stadium the last World Series game when it looked like Piazza's ball was going out and it just died.
That was the game Al Leiter threw like 190,000 pitches, right?
Yeah, it was. Yes, I was at that game.
He literally threw till his arm went off. I'm not saying anything that's facetious.
It's like they didn't want to go to the bullpen.
Right.
You know, and for just a brief moment, you thought that ball was going out and we were going crazy, and then it died, and that was the worst.
My heart was like,
that was weird. Like David Cone was in relief for the Yankees in that postseason series, if I recall correctly. That was just a lot of weird things there, right? Doc Gooden was in a Yankees uniform. Yeah, David Cone in a Yankees uniform, and Jose Canseco was in a Yankees uniform.
Cone got a big out, right? Didn't he come in?
Yeah.
He got Piazza, didn't he?
Yep. Yeah, he got a few big outs, I believe, in that series.
So. In that aspect, I just love to see them win a Subway Series, a World Series against the Yankees. But you know what? I'll take any World Series win right now.
All right. And John Gonzalez says here, I remember Jay Payton getting beaned by the Cardinals back in 2000.
And then there was a fight.
And John Gonzalez says, what was Timo Perez thinking in game 1?
Well, that's has another good trivia thing, right? Mm-hmm. Jay Payton was one of 3 guys to hit a home run off of Mariano Rivera in the playoffs.
That's a good trivia question. Not many.
Nobody would guess they did that. You could guess the other two. The other two are pretty famous.
Oh, Sandy Alomar Jr. right was one of them.
Right.
That was the 1997 American League Division Series. I remember that. I remember very well.
That was a series clincher.
You know why I remember
Ortiz,
it?
I think.
I'm going to tell you why I actually remember that one real quick because I know I got a couple of guys who are baseball card collectors. Topps in their set actually made a card off the home run that Sandy Alomar hit. This was the 1998 Topps set, which I always thought at the time was one of the more prettier Topps sets. But that's how I remember it obviously, but I definitely remember Sandy Alomar because he had a great postseason. And the other one, I don't know, Luis Gonzalez.
No, it was Ortiz.
All right, well,
you know, I who cares about what ifs these days? But you know, I'm going to make a what if proclamation.
All right, talk to me.
I say the Mets would have won the 2000 World Series if John Olerud didn't go to Seattle.
Well, Todd Zeile wasn't terrible though. I mean, what's wrong with Todd Zeile? He was good.
John Olerud betted 360 every year. It was an on-base machine.
But they had Todd Zeile playing like in an uncomfortable position.
Todd Zeile was not a bad player, and I love the work he does for SNY. I like Todd Zeile a lot. make this a disrespect for Todd.
Right, okay.
I like
I
Todd
got
a
you.
lot, but John Olerud is just that pure, perfect hitter in the middle.
Well, he
of
was
the
a
lineup.
clutch player. I think that's what Mets fans.
I think
have to
game
find.
one was it was everything, right?
Okay.
It was.
It was the
Yeah.
Timo Perez, and then at the end it was Benitez blowing the game.
What a
You
shot!
know, that was it. And then game two, I thought game two also with the whole thing with Piazza, right?
Yep.
Piazza should have charged the mound. He should have.
Yes.
That could have changed
Definitely.
everything. Because by him not charging the mound, the Yankee was like, "Look at this."
Well, he did.
You know, like,
I mean, and let me get to a few.
Charged the mound, he would have showed the Yankees, like just go out there and show them, like,
Well,
you can't do this to us.
That's a decision between him and his God. I got a couple of comments in here I'd like to read off. And
Sure.
Joe Dell says 2000 Rob Halford show, which I believe was a solo album at that time. I believe Resurrection, VIP section, people cheering and booing. I look up, there's Mike Piazza. So that was that in 2000. And John Gonzalez says the Yankees overall had more talent than the Mets in 2000. If you went baseball cards versus baseball cards, careers, no question about it.
No doubt.
No question. I mean,
No
the
doubt.
Yankees had David Justice, Jose Canseco, David Cohn.
But our season that year wasn't great, like you said.
No, well, the Mets had a
And
very
think about it,
good season.
and look at this though: 4-3 in game one, 6-5 in game two. Mets won 4-2 in game three.
Ugh.
3-2 Yankees in game four. 4-2 in game five. I
They
mean,
were close games. Yeah, they were
every
close games.
single game was close.
very stressful. I'm telling you, every game was
So then,
right down to the end. So
consensus is for you three guys: you want to see it or you don't want to see it again.
Preferably not.
I wouldn't mind it.
And Chris doesn't want to see it. So
I'd rather
Right there
not,
for it.
but you know what? If we won, yeah, I want to see it. But obviously, there's no guarantee. So
I mean, look, this is the way I look at it. Got to get there first, right? That's always the old.
exactly. We
Yeah.
both may not be there. So
Well, there's no guarantee. I got to tell you, listen, there's definitely no guarantee. I mean, looking at the American League right now in the National League, and I think it's a great segue here. I mean, looking at the standings here as we're going into it, and I'm still kind of surprised here right now as we're running down the American because I've got the Yankee side of things. Tampa, we talked about a little bit, that the Minnesota Twins right now still have some distance between themselves and the Chicago White Sox. I mean, they got off to a slow start, but have played really well since. I mean, are you guys buying the Minnesota Twins, or are they still?
No.
No, why not?
No, I just don't
They
think
gotta slow down.
don't think they're as complete of a team as the White Sox. The White Sox are going to get it going at some point. They haven't gotten an inning out of Lance Lynn yet, so they will at some
Well,
point.
I tell you what, Dallas Keuchel looks like he should pitch no more innings.
Then that's
we even hit him the last time.
Yeah,
Everybody's
that's,
hitting him. We all could hit him right now. John
don't know.
Gonzalez could hit him right now.
and that's
Seriously.
that's the problem right now. The rotation's not all that good right now. Giolito's been okay. Dylan Cease has been pretty good, but after that, it kind of tails off. And their lineup hasn't been great.
No.
They've been missing Jimenez for a while.
Yeah.
I think they'll get it together. I mean, they were my preseason pick to make the World Series.
Yes, you were you love the White Sox. Listen to the baseball
And
fan.
I'm with
Yeah,
you.
you know what? I'm sticking to that. It's early in the season. We're just about to hit Memorial Day. I think the White Sox have a good opportunity in a soft division because
it is a soft division, no
because
question.
Kansas City's not that good. The Guardians are not good. The Tigers have been worse than we thought. They can't
Oh
score.
my God.
They can't score a run to save
John
it.
Gonzalez and
They're
Brad
on pace.
Weiss's Detroit Tigers.
If you actually look at it, they're on pace to score fewer runs than the team that went 43-119 in 03.
Oh my God.
So I don't know. There's no challenges for the White Sox really. I think the Twins are going to taper off by the All-Star break.
Well, I mean, the lineup's not impressive. I will say Buxton's got 11 home runs, and
And
then
their
the rest of the
pitching's
lineup-
going to have to come down to earth a little bit too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, pitching, it's been good. I mean, the pitching's been Sonny Gray's been great. I mean,
I think it's more the White Sox not playing as good as they should. Rather
well,
than
no question about that. The White
think
Sox
that's helping
They're
out a lot.
sleepwalking through the early portion of the year.
almost kind of reminds me of those Cleveland Indians teams that always, for whatever reason, would sleepwalk through the Central divisions after a while. Then they kind of eventually put it together. The Twins in the mid-2000s is another example here. And John Gonzalez says, on a serious note, the White Sox have too much talent. Yeah, I mean, But I'm just
Absolutely.
running down the American League here and looking at the teams here. And the Minnesota Twins, right now, they're up 6-5 over Kansas City. They are up 4.5 games right now over the Chicago White Sox. And then in the American League West, I mean, right now it's about Houston and the Angels. I mean, you got a nice little two-way race there. That's kind of one of the stories in baseball. I mean,
I'll give you one thing, though, that's very alarming is that the White Sox have the third worst run differential in the American League. Only the Royals, who are minus 61.
What are they, minus 50 right now about the White Sox? Right, about
minus 42. The Tigers are minus 47. Meanwhile, obviously, the Yankees are plus 75, which leads the American League.
20 games over 500. They better be plus 75. I mean,
well, they have a better record. They have a better record than the Dodgers, but the Dodgers run differentials plus 114.
Well, the Dodgers have won like some crazy lopsided games that I know. And
last night was 14.
And John Gonzalez being facetious. The White Sox have Josh Donaldson's favorite player. Well, I mean, if we're really going to talk about it, Tim Anderson is only hitting like 363. So, yeah, I mean, if Josh Donaldson just would have kept his mouth shut, I mean, he could have said, yeah, that would have been the best way to put it. And Joe Dell says here, Mets sitting first, more cozy than any other first-place team at the moment. Well, the Yankees, I think, have the same lead, right? The Yankees have just about the same lead.
One game difference. One game difference. Mets are 7.5. It's similar.
All right, so we have that. Houston and the Angels are in a two-way race. Texas played a little better lately.
They are playing better. I thought they were going to be a pretty solid team this year, but they got off to such a slow start, and I think it's going to be.
What do you guys make of the Seattle Mariners, though? We talk about them a couple different times here. We spoke a lot about them at the end of the shows here last year.
Yeah,
they're looking like they're going to have a hard time.
They got to bounce back too, I think, Seattle.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, Chris. I saw them a couple weeks ago. I know they won that game on Sunday, that crazy Sunday game. Which the Mets lost their first series of the year. But I don't know. I actually think that Seattle might be a bit overrated.
Well, they're 18-27 to be now past the quarter mark of the season,
and they're tied. And they're tied with the A's for last place. The A's are 19-28.
And who's left on the A's right now? Really?
Yeah.
That's not saying much. And then we talked about, obviously, the NL East and the Braves struggles. The Phillies, obviously, are still where they are. And we're not really going to speak much about Miami and Washington. Then the Central, it seems to be pretty much Milwaukee and St. Louis. St. Louis, I believe, is half a game going into today's play behind.
I will say, though, Miami's no picnic, though. They got they have a lot of good young pitching with Sandy Alcantara, Pablo Lopez, Alicia Hernandez. They got a lot of young pitching. Their lineup's not great. That's why they've really started to fall off over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I wouldn't say that. They're not going to be that easy to deal with.
No, but I don't think you're going to look at them in a month from now.
No, you won't.
What you say? No. Yeah, no, they'll be all right. They're not a pushover, but
right.
I got a couple comments in here from John. There's some good ones. First one, Mets need to have a solid June. Yeah, Mets schedule in June is going to be very difficult. John also says Mariners are not a factor. I see the Angels giving the Astros a run for their money. They might.
Absolutely.
They might. I mean, they
got
a good
ball. Stay healthy. We were talking about it earlier too.
Pitching's got to stay healthy too. I mean, Mike Trout's been out of this world. And they haven't gotten great production out of Ohtani, to be honest.
No.
So I'm not sure.
9 home runs and 29 RBI. Still not.
Yeah,
but his pitching I think he's only 3-3, right? So he's not been.
It wasn't great last night against the Blue Jays. So I mean, to
3-3 with a 3.45 ERA. That's his numbers. Right
yeah, and he's been fine, but he's not where he was last year. And obviously, last year was a historical season.
And then John Gonzalez is too funny. He says, "Look out, Brood is watching." Well, how are you checking that he's watching? Do you have like? Well, we'll check on Facebook. Maybe I got a like on Facebook from Brad Weiss. He might.
Maybe.
Well, I don't know. I don't see.
Hey, he's heading home happy. I'll tell you that.
Well, he should be, right? The drive home to Plainview should be a happy one for the Brew Force Brad Weiss here. I mean,
is he out of the parking lot? Question mark.
That's the whole thing.
It looked like a very good crowd tonight.
Well, why not? It turned out to be a nice evening. It's Memorial Day weekend. I think
I think people might have gotten scared off by the start of the game because of the weather.
Yeah.
But Hey, paid attendance was 30,175.
All right.
30,000 is
Not
not
bad.
bad. Yeah,
Good
you know
number.
what? For a so-so day, Memorial Day weekend, I would assume they're going to have nice gates. Are you going to be at the games at all this weekend, Justin?
Sunday night.
So nice. So I'm sure they'll have a nice turnout for Sunday.
I'll be there. I'll be there Sunday night, and I'll be there on Wednesday afternoon.
Oh wow, you're going to be at the Wednesday. What's that? 1:05 first pitch.
Yeah, one time against the Nationals.
I always like those kind of summer 1:00 games. You put the radio on and you listen to it while you're out. I always kind of like those games. So
There actually is a chance. I would say right now it's 50-50. I'm working out some details. I might be pulling off a New York doubleheader on Wednesday.
so you're going to do Met and Yankee?
I might go to the Yankees-Angels game if Shohei Ohtani's pitching.
Wow. Okay. Boy,
Not bad.
you almost.
You know what? I did that once about 30
I have
years
a-
ago.
What'd you do? Well, talk to me about that experience. I'd love to hear
Go
it.
ahead.
It was a Yankees Angels day game,
Okay.
and I think Abbott was pitching for us, and we did win. And then the Met game was a Mets Cubs, if I remember.
What was the purpose of that? Mets Cubs in '93 sounds.
I think
like
we just wanted to do, just like you said, a double, the
Okay.
double dip there. Both seeing both New York teams.
Just
in
take
the
the
same
4 to
day.
the 7.
Yeah,
The 4 to the 7 train.
That's
I think we drove, but
Okay.
we did both. We made it.
Wow. Okay. That's
It was cool. It was cool to do it once. I was like, all right, I don't have
Well,
to
my
do this
brother Sean just did with the Yankees doubleheader this past. He actually did Sunday. He did both games, and then he did Monday night. He went back, so he did 3 games in 2 days, which is
That's not bad.
And then John Gonzalez says the intrigue with Oakland is where will they trade Frankie Montes? Anybody want to answer that for John Gonzalez?
I could see Montes going to the National League.
Any team you think?
Huh?
St. Louis?
Any team you think?
Maybe St. Louis, San Fran.
Dodgers.
San Francisco could use
Yeah, the
pitching. They had a
Dodgers-
bad
yeah.
month.
I would say
You're right. Dodgers.
I would say the Dodgers are going to be hot and heavy on that one because right now, we talk about how much of a juggernaut that offensive lineup is, but their pitching right now is a lot of concerns. I mean, Julio Urias has not been great. He's been okay. Bueller has been Walker Bueller. He's been terrific. Clayton Kershaw's hurt. You've gotten some good performances from Tyler Anderson and Tony Gonsolin, but how much do you really trust those two going forward? So the Dodgers right now have an issue in the starting rotation.
Well, you don't think San Francisco would need pitching also? They've had a bad month here so far in pitching.
I think they'll be desperate too. I mean,
All right.
it's gonna be but will Oakland trade him across the bay? I don't know if that's a dynamic.
Was it Chris that said St. Louis? Because St. Louis is also a good destination, right?
St.
To-
Louis
Possible.
could use pitching too. I mean, I know he wasn't pitching great, but now Steven Matz is hurt. Shocker, but St. Louis could certainly be in the market for.
And John Gonzalez has a good one. I'll let Chris handle this. The one name I keep being connected to the Yankees is Andrew Benintendi. You have a thought on that, Chris?
Yeah, no, definitely. Because he would fit us perfectly because we could use an extra outfielder. You could put him in left and then you can move Gallo to right and you put Judge in center so you don't have to deal with Hicks anymore.
Left-handed
every
hitter,
day.
right?
So he's actually the perfect bat for us, and he's a good glove too. He's a
left-handed hitter, right?
Yeah. So I like him. Maybe even like an Ian Happ from Chicago, and maybe you could get Contreras too.
I don't know that they're willing to part with Happ. I think the Cubs fire sale's done with, and that those are the guys that they're going to go forward with. You might have to pay a solid price.
I always liked Benintendi. That's a good one because I always liked Benintendi with Kansas City. Just a nice player.
And he's a free agent after this year, I think. Benintendi.
He's having a big year too, so he, obviously it's a walk year, so he's going to definitely produce for you. And
yeah, no, I like it. I'd be all for it. And he's a lefty, lefty bat, good glove.
Can you explain this comment, Jodell? Rob Cleaner the Rock. What? You all right? You had a doobie just now? I mean, Cleaner the Rock.
Cleaner the Rock.
I have no idea what that means. Clean the rock. I don't know. I know what it means. He's making fun of somebody. I got it. Joe, listen, that's an inside joke. No one knows what you're talking about.
Okay, my first thought was, did he mean Queen of the Reich? Queen of the Rock.
I know what he meant. I know what he
Queen
means.
of the Reich. I just would have thought that would have made sense. But okay, I mean, certainly that's fine. Then in the National League, obviously, we've got 4 teams still over 500 in the NL West. I mean, anybody buying the Diamondbacks, or is the Diamondbacks hanging on
No.
by a thread here? No,
No, you know, it's too tough.
Nah.
It's too tough of a division. It's too tough of a
It's going to
division
be the
right
big
now.
3 in the West.
And you think all 3 of them make the playoffs, and the Padres, the Giants, and the Dodgers, or
I think so.
No,
St.
I'm
Louis?
not buying San Francisco. I just
not?
don't. I'm not really a fan.
I
of
said
what
that
San
last year, and they
Francisco
ended up winning over.
What do you
100
think, Rob?
games.
What's your
Yeah, no,
thoughts?
this year I'm with Justin on that. I don't think. I mean, last year was last year. I don't think the Giants are going to keep it up. But that's just my.
But think about what other 3 teams are going to make it. Wild card, right?
Well,
you
St.
figure-
Louis would be the
St.
team.
Louis
you'd
is going to
think.
be there. Milwaukee could probably be a favorite for the division. I still got to think Atlanta gets it together. Even if the Mets still win the division this year, I got to think Atlanta gets their act
Well, I
together.
think we're all thinking, right, as Met fans for a second, leave aside the Yankees and everything else they're going through, that because the Mets schedule gets tougher here these next few weeks, that
Yeah.
one of the teams, the Braves or the Phillies, is going to gain some ground, right? Because you just have to think the law of logic.
I don't think
that
the
Mets-
Phillies, though. I don't think the Phillies are built to win. They're
No,
just
I'm not buying the Phillies, but
Yeah.
I got to imagine that the Braves get it together, and I could see a wild card from each division. Honestly,
Really?
the Braves or Mets, whoever loses that division. The Cardinals, I could definitely see making the playoffs, and the Padres are a really solid ball club, and they're not going to have enough to catch the Dodgers.
And John says the Padres will be in the playoffs. Tatis will be back soon. Well, you'd have to think.
I think wishful thinking for them will be the All-Star break with Tatis. But once they get him back, that lineup just takes an extra scary turn. They've performed well as it is. So, San Diego's in really good shape. I think with Bob Melvin there, I think that they're in good shape to not fall apart in the second half.
Bob Melvin, good manager. Good manager.
Definitely.
Good manager. And I wanted to bring this up because we spoke about this at the beginning of the season. I thought about it in the last week where Albert Pujols had a 2-home run game, and he's now 17 home runs shy of 700. I'm going to ask everybody here again before I get to John Gonzalez's next comment. We're at 683 for King Albert. Do we see him getting 17 more, or we think he comes up short? What do you guys think?
I really hope he gets it.
I hope so too, but
Well, do you think he's going to get it? Hoping we
no,
all
I don't.
don't.
It's taking him this. He was stuck on 2 for so long, and then he had the 2-home run game. He's only at 4.
4 and 69 at bats right now. Thanks to crack.
I don't see him. 17 home runs for him at his age. That's a lot of home runs. Of course, we hope he does it, but I don't think he's going to do it. 17 is just a lot of home runs.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I agree.
And then we got here. Hosmer has been incredible. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, he's had a great
What a
year.
resurgent year for Hosmer.
So I got to ask this, and we're going to keep Rob Morosco on here. And we'll end a little earlier tonight because we're shooting the baseball breeze at this point, and we'll let Rob hang out with us here for the 20 minutes or so, whatever. And we'll get to closing thoughts afterwards. And I guess I wasn't going to bring it up, but I almost, because I know John Gonzalez and Joe Dell are listening, and they'll probably have a comment or two. I almost got to ask it. I'll throw it out there. You guys can say whatever you want, but what you guys make of this whole Josh Donaldson and Tim Anderson situation? I want to hear. I want to hear from the Sportzwire Radio guys, because I'm sure somebody out there would love to hear what you guys think. So fire away, whatever you guys think.
Listen, the whole thing was ridiculous. Does everything have to go out in public? Does everything have to be racism? What happened? Ball players, when they were ball players, and if you said something, you just dealt with it, between, each other. You didn't go to the press. You didn't cry. It's just, to me, it's just ridiculous. It's stupid. He called himself did he not joke around? I don't even know if he was joking around. And he called himself,
he was
the next Jackie Robinson. He said it, didn't he? Did he not say it? And now it's all this big, it's just BS. It's stupid. Come on, guys. How old are you?
What do you guys think here?
I'm right with I totally agree with Rob. To me, it was between the white lines, right? And we see it in every sport.
Yep.
There's a guy that's always going to nudge the other players, the other team in hockey.
Oh, hockey, we've seen it thousands of times in hockey.
I mean, Sean Avery, right? He's what perfect example.
Well, how
of that.
about McSorley and
Exactly.
Bashir? We saw that
But
years
that's
back.
what Donaldson is. He wants to get under your skin or whatever. He wants to get you off your game just a little bit. So listen, did he go over the line? Yeah, maybe he did, but it certainly wasn't racist. I don't think it wasn't that at all. I think he's just an a-hole. That's what it comes down to, right? I'm saying it nicely, but that's what he is. And he's just trying to get under the guy's skin. He said something stupid. And you know what? It's over. Like you said, he shouldn't have cried about it. He shouldn't have went to the, to me, the two people that blew it out, made it much bigger, even bigger than Anderson. Number one was the catcher, right? Because he approached Donaldson at home plate, and that's what caused the bench clearing, kind of not brawl, but, made
everybody came out.
Randell. And then to make it worse was La Russa. La Russa,
I knew you were going with that.
That it was a racist comment. He should have never said that. Anderson did not call it racist. He might have said it was out of line or whatever, but he didn't call it racist. La Russa was the first one to say it racist. And then everybody ran with it. Of course, ESPN, they're going to run with that.
Oh, if Tony La Russa speaks, people are going to.
Right. Hall of Famer, 80 years old, whatever he is. Yeah, of course. But but those guys, they'll get away with it. Grandel should have got suspended for a game for approaching Donaldson at home plate and for causing that whole big thing. Because if he doesn't do that, nothing happens, right? Nothing happens.
Joe Dell says here, bad publicity is still good publicity because Joe, of course, is from the legendary band Sleepy Hollow, so I understand his point. And then we got to John Gonzalez. Donaldson is a troublemaker, but it wasn't a racist remark, but he is an instigator.
Yes, absolutely.
I agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. What do you think? Talk to me.
I'm split on this. I'm kind of split between your guys' thoughts and the other way because two wrongs don't make a right. Was what Anderson said, calling himself the next Jackie Robinson, the right thing to do? No, it wasn't.
But I understand what he's. I don't think that was wrong. To a point. Because I understand what he was trying to say.
I get what he's trying to say, but it just to put
Jackie Robinson.
To put yourself in the shoes of the next Jackie Robinson is just not necessary.
Right.
And I feel like it was all unnecessary, but that doesn't make it right for Josh Donaldson to say that between the lines. And I think that the league needed to send a message, and it's one game. They didn't suspend Donaldson for 15 games. They suspended him for one game. I mean, get over it. I mean, it's fine. One game, no big deal. But I just think that two wrongs don't make a right. He's not wrong. I mean, I don't want to. You shouldn't be talking about stuff when you can't even avoid a DUI. But
all right. And he says Anderson is no Jackie Robinson.
No, of course not. He's a great player. That's nobody's taken away. He's won multiple batting titles. Nobody's taken away the fact that Tim Anderson is not a great player. He's a great player. But to put himself in the spotlight in that SI article back in 2019.
Wasn't there a line though that La Russa made before I get to the birthday boy Anthony Finkel, where La Russa had said, well, maybe if people saw the kind of player that Tim Anderson was, they would kind of see the comparison. Anybody hear that line? He said that during the ESPN telecast.
Listen, I'm not putting Anderson down at all. I think he's a great player.
I like watching him play, honestly.
And I understand what Anderson is trying to say, right? Because you got to remember, it was 3 years ago. I think it was more about his bat flips, that he did. Yeah. Now it's more common, so now it's not a big deal. Between that and I think maybe to attract more African American players to play baseball instead of football and basketball, because they're all
baseball's a tough game too. There's a lot of reasons why. It's the call. Listen, I can tell you, growing up, baseball, my parents, really couldn't afford to put us in. I know Justin was a high school baseball player, but it was like basketball, and certainly not so much football, but basketball was a cheaper sport to play. Baseball and hockey were like, you ain't gonna get to play those.
Right,
And,
you have equipment to get, and all
you
that.
know, and the travel. Anthony Finkel says, I support Donaldson. Nothing racist about calling him Jackie Robinson, especially when he gave himself that nickname. Bold statement. Any thoughts on that?
It's fair. Honestly, I think it's fair to be on both sides at this point. I don't think one side.
Yeah.
I don't think one side is is acting outrageous. That's why I'm kind of down the middle on this, and that's why my take is that two wrongs don't make a right. I don't think it was the smartest thing for Tim Anderson to say in the interview, but I also don't think it really was the greatest look. Like, look, we're all right. Josh Donaldson's a certified D-bag, and that's fine. That's just who he is.
Well, see what you just said? Is that also why maybe people don't want to take his side so much? Because remember the incidents with Garrett Cole in the past? Now he comes across.
Yeah, I don't think he gets because of his history. I don't think he gets the benefit of the doubt. And
that's my point. Yep.
It also didn't really seem like the Yankee clubhouse seemed to back him too much either.
No.
Well, would you really want to back him right now? He hasn't played well. Also, like if he was hitting 330 right now,
but he's still your teammate. It's almost like you're kind of tossing him under the bus and putting tire tracks on him.
Boone supported him more than anybody else.
Oh yeah, and that's
they basically said the guy's an idiot for what he said, but
that's what John Gonzalez is saying. Pretty much, Donaldson was looking for trouble.
Absolutely,
John's
been on target tonight. Wow, he's like the most been on target.
Josh Donaldson is the guy that you love when he's on your team, but you can't stand him when he's not.
Right.
So, yeah, that's definite. That's a good
think of Sean Avery, think of Claude Lemieux. I'm sure you guys can think of other players, right? It's that's the type of player he is. He wants to get under the other guy's skin. And you know what? Cashman knew what he was bringing him in because that's what he wanted. He wanted the Yankees to have that kind of an edge to them.
Yes.
So he knew what he was getting when he knew something like this was going to happen. Maybe not in a racist end of it, but he knew Donaldson was going to start a fight with somebody or something because that's what he's done, and he's done that. It's his whole career. He's been that way.
Yep.
So maybe like you said, Anderson went over the line calling himself Jackie Robinson, and Donaldson probably went over the line calling him Jackie because you shouldn't call anybody because Anderson obviously is not going through the same
John
thing.
Gonzalez has got a good question
comparison
for everyone here because I knew this would be a good topic. And
yeah,
John says here, now, will Donaldson cause a rift in the clubhouse? That's the bigger question.
That's a possibility.
It's 100% possible. You know what? He's not the type that's for everybody. No. And there's a reason why a player of his caliber has been on, I think this is his fifth or sixth team.
Braves, Blue Jays.
And he's a pretty good ball player.
So he started with the A's. He went to the Blue Jays. Yep, he was with the Braves. Well, I feel like he was with Cleveland too.
Yeah.
So, and then he was with the
Braves,
the Twins last year. Yeah, I said the Braves.
Braves.
He was with the Twins last year, and then this year the Yankees. So I believe that's six.
Oakland also. He played for Oakland also.
That's where he came. That's where he came up, and he foolishly got. I think that's where he got traded. That's where he got traded to Toronto. Won his MVP, and then. Cleveland, Atlanta, Minnesota.
So he's almost like a Dave Kingman, just gets moved around all the time.
Yeah.
John's got a good question.
John's got a good question. I think it's going to test.
John's got another one. He says, now, if he's a distraction, let's go and play with this. If he's a distraction, do you trade him?
Of course. But can
you
have to. Who's going to want him?
Exactly.
Who's going to want him, A, and B, the Yankees took him on because there was a lot of money attached to it.
Yeah, he's got another year left. So I think it'll be hard to trade him. But I don't think the Yankees will let it be a distraction. I think the Yankees are going to squash it.
They will.
And I think it is already squashed. He already apologized to Anderson. He apologized to Jackie Robinson's family. It's like, all right, whatever. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
Look, you know what? He's one of those guys who are bad, who's in the long run, he's bad for a clubhouse. Like you said, if he wasn't, he wouldn't be playing on a lot of different teams. If you're that good, you don't move that fast. That's what the problem is. He definitely could be a clubhouse cancer.
The only trade that I don't attribute to the
Sure you
clubhouse
want to post that?
was the one from Oakland to Toronto.
Well, you know what? Today we had on. I shouldn't even say this, but we were speaking with our guest in England, which was the tag team of the Wrecking Crew, who Davey Getsky, who is now wants to take over Sportswire Radio for an undetermined date and time for his own show, where he's going to take over my position. We had spoke about, let's just say, somebody's undergarments in a way that it kind of told between. That's what you get with wrestling. You never know with wrestling. And then we had another wrestler earlier this week, the Cumbrian outlaw Rick Marcus, who dropped the F-bomb, and we couldn't catch it. We were like, oh, he's like, oops. Oh, I forgot. I'm on the radio. Oh, oops. And then he said it again twice. So, I mean, I guess just considering those got posted in, no, he really said it. He's like, oh, I forgot, Tom. I'm sorry. So he said here, and that's Joe's comment, Donaldson got moved around more than a naughty priest. Well, John Gonzalez is going to save us here because he says here, in a more lighter note, fans can be vicious. I can see Anderson getting heckled at stadiums. I can hear the Jackie calls. You guys buy into that? I mean, he's a good ball player. Maybe fans of their players don't like him of the teams he plays against. You buy into that at all? What do you guys think?
I'm sure that'll happen at some point, but I think eventually people are going to move on.
I feel like people forget, though. We're such a fast food society. I really feel like, are people going to really remember Josh Donaldson and Tim Anderson? I mean, people barely remember what they had for dinner yesterday. Are fans going to really remember? No, it's an honest point. I mean, I really feel like that people are going to really remember this. It's being talked about, obviously for different reasons. Donaldson's a polarizing figure, and La Russa spoke up about it. It is the Yankees. It is the White Sox. They are marquee cities. I mean, I'll even throw it out there. If this was in San Diego and Kansas City or Kansas City and Colorado, would we be talking about this the same way?
Probably not.
No.
That's my point. It's New York, Chicago. Those are two of the biggest markets out there. You're going to definitely, and again, Anderson, like I think it was Chris that pointed out, and Justin, he's a batting champion. He's leading the league in hitting right now. Donaldson's obviously a lightning rod for any type of criticism. So, I mean, those are some of the things here that are coming on here. And we're talking all things related here to the world of sports here in about, 10 or 15 minutes here. Again, a little earlier than usual because, well, it's Memorial Day weekend. Let people enjoy themselves. And I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. Alongside me is Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter Show, Chris Bizet of the Liftoff Jets and the Talking Rivals Show, and Rob Maraska, our longest tenured analyst. And John Gonzalez chimes in here and says, if the Yankees meet the White Sox in the playoffs, that'll be interesting. Yeah, that actually would be interesting. You know what? Because the Yankees and White Sox, correct me if I'm wrong, haven't met in the postseason, right? Am I missing something there on that? I don't think the Yankees and White Sox have met in the postseason before. That would be an interesting postseason series. Chicago, big market. Yankees, big market. Yeah, I think I'd like to see that series, not because of Donaldson and Anderson, but the White Sox got to get there first. I mean, the Yankees, I think, are a safe bet into the postseason. I mean,
so here's a bit of a breaking baseball story that I don't know if you
break me something away from Josh Donaldson.
If you've kind of been following this developing situation over the recent days and weeks, there's been a vote between the Anaheim City Council about the sale of Angel Stadium.
Yes,
and a potential waterfront ballpark in Long Beach to be the new home of the Angels. Well, apparently all this is going to be falling through, and the Angels apparently have just agreed to it, and that looks like that for the foreseeable future, they're staying at Angel Stadium. Now, Angel Stadium is the fourth oldest stadium in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, that's going back to what, like 1966?
That was I believe 1966 Angel Stadium.
That was the what did they used to call that stadium? I forget. Was it like
it was originally Anaheim
the old
Stadium.
owner. Then it was the old owner's name for a while, right? Wasn't it the old owner? I'm trying to think.
I don't think so.
I remember Anaheim Stadium. I was there like in 1976.
Was it old then?
It was always gaudy looking.
It was.
I'll talk about this because this is interesting here. I'll talk about this for a few minutes.
So it looks like it was. Oh yeah, when I grew up, it was Edison Field.
Gene Autry. John Gonzalez confirms what I am thinking. Gene Autry,
it wasn't named after him. It was
No, he never had a stadium name. It's only been under 3 names.
What are they? What are those names?
Anaheim Stadium, and then
Okay.
they became Edison International Field, and then now it's just Angel Stadium.
Yeah, I remember them always calling it the Big A, right?
Yeah, that
Still
was.
is. Yeah, it still is.
So talk to me for those that are watching and listening to this, and the fact that they were looking for a new park because it's an old park. Because like it is an old park. I'm thinking about obviously Fenway's an older park, Wrigley's an older park, and what's the other one? That's the oldest park ahead of the Angels. What's
Fenway.
the other one? I
Fenway.
said Fenway. I said Fenway,
Yeah,
Wrigley,
Fenway in 1912,
and Dodger
Dodgers
Stadium.
too.
It's Fenway,
Wrigley
Wrigley, Dodger
1914,
Stadium. That's right.
Dodger Stadium in
So walk-
1962,
So walk
and
me
then
through
Angel
this.
Stadium in 66.
So if they're not getting a waterfront stadium, which is what they wanted, right? Because obviously it's an outdated ballpark, they're staying in Angel Stadium. But what does that mean then?
Wait, what about the Oakland Coliseum too? That's old.
No, but I think
It's not quite as old as.
wasn't that like 1970 though, like in the 70s from what the
Early
old.
70s, I would think.
Wasn't that like the ushering of like remember with Riverfront and Jack Murphy and
It was probably a
Three
late
Rivers.
60s, 70, yeah, around there.
It opened
Oh,
the
that
same
was-
year. It opened the same year, 66.
okay, all right. So we got to talk.
But
Nice.
no,
one.
But
I
how long
mean-
do they have a lease in Anaheim? Right
that
now?
was my next question.
It had originally run through, I believe, 2027,
Okay.
but they were trying to get out of it.
Now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where are they going to go after this then?
Well, they're staying. They're not going anywhere. I think that they're going to commit to newer renovations, it seems.
I don't
I
think
mean-
MLB is going to let them leave, though. That's a big market.
No, they wouldn't leave. I mean, Long Beach would be that's in Orange County. That's kind of in the same area.
Yeah.
Obviously, but I think that there's a charm to Angel Stadium, and for somebody who's been there as
Oh, you've been there. Talk to me about that.
I love the stadium. I think it's a great stadium for a baseball game. I went to 2 games there, both against the Rangers.
Wow. Okay.
And it's a nice cozy feel to the game. I love the rocks out in center field.
Yeah, I remember the Rocks.
So
And that's pretty new, right? The last, I'd say, 15 years, 20 years.
yeah,
They opened a couple of All-Star
they
games
did
there,
major
too.
renovations in the 90s that's when it got renamed to Edison Field. That's when they did their biggest renovations.
When Disney took over the team, right? When Disney took over.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Right before the Artie Moreno era. And that's when they had those stupid uniforms with the blue and the angels.
Yeah, those were bad.
Like scripted in a way.
Yeah.
Those are bad.
I didn't like those.
And then
I like what they. I love what they wear now.
yeah, the jerseys are fine.
It's got a kind of a callback to their older ones.
Yeah, it's just got this. It's got this nice feel to it. It doesn't feel like it's that outdated.
But they
and
clearly
I know
wanted-
it's an older stadium.
But they wanted a new park, though. They did feel that it was outdated. The ownership felt, Artie Moreno felt that they wanted something else because they're probably not getting the luxury seats that maybe the other stadiums are getting, and
right.
they spend a lot of money into the team. It's always a team with a big payroll, and
Yeah, and you know what?
You know.
They've also seen the Dodgers make major renovations to Dodger Stadium.
well, the Dodgers
I mean-
have like more money than Elon Musk. It seems. I mean, let's be
I know,
honest.
right?
They just
Okay.
can't. Yeah.
You know,
I'm
it's
not
funny.
going to joke. It's the serious
And
truth.
it's funny. I went to Dodger Stadium 7 years ago as well.
Yeah, Joe Rosas, one of our listeners, has went there. He raves about Dodger Stadium.
Yeah,
He
I went to
raves
Dodger
about
Stadium 7 years ago, and it was a
Mhm.
beautiful stadium then.
Yep.
But my God, what they've done now with the
I
extra.
saw that on
renovation-
Instagram. I've seen the photos because, like I said, Joe Rosas, my friend, went there recently, so he's
Yeah. So I mean, it's what I like that they're not. I like that they're in that stadium.
Anybody have a
So-
different thought on that before I get to John Gonzalez's perpetual comment on the A's? Anybody have a different thought on that ballpark?
I just think it is, of course, about the money, and I think it's about the luxury boxes and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
basically what it is. Because I saw that stadium, like I said, in the 70s, so it was a lot different looking then. It was nothing special then, but now, like with the rocks, that does look nice, and the updates, it looks nice, has a cozy feel to it. But I'm sure that the luxury boxes are one of the main concerns of ownership.
Sure. And John Gonzalez says, good trivia. The Angels, I believe, originally played at the Los Angeles Coliseum. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because again, what do I know? That was where the Olympics was played, right? In 1960. Is
Yeah.
that what I'm thinking of? And
Mhm.
Joe Dell had
USC plays there now.
Joe Dell had a good line here. The Who were the first band to play there in 1970. Angels Stadium hosted. I didn't know that the Who played there in 1970. I did not know that the Who had played. That's a good one. That's
The
actually
Rams, the Rams spent a lot of time there too.
That was in the 80s and 90s, right before they moved to St. Louis. They played at the Anaheim Stadium, right? Am I thinking that was the Los Angeles Rams, right? Where they played there until about, I want to say they left the Los Angeles the first time around 94, maybe like 94-ish, 95 for those that
Yes,
are.
and who had that comment about the Angels playing at the Coliseum because they never did.
John Gonzalez.
They did not.
Okay.
So they played at
John
Wrigley.
Gonzalez, you have been fact checked for the first time in a long time.
They played at their inaugural. They played at their inaugural season at Wrigley Field. And if anybody remembers the old school ESPN Classic Home Run Derby,
Yeah, I remember those.
that was Wrigley Field in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And the Angels played their first year there, and then they played at Dodger Stadium from 62 to 65 when Dodger Stadium opened.
Now, did
And
the Dodgers
it was,
play
the,
at
it
the
was the Los
Coliseum?
Angeles Dodgers from 58 to 61
That played there
when they first moved out of New York to go to LA.
Brooklyn.
They played at the Coliseum.
Wow.
With a
Okay.
230-foot left field.
Wow. Okay. I
And
did
then
not.
900-foot right field.
I didn't know any of that, John, because I wasn't born. So I mean, I wouldn't. Unfortunately, I didn't see it. So I mean, I couldn't comment on clarifying that. But Justin certainly did, and John also said the A's are trying to get a new stadium in Oakland. If they don't, it's hello Las Vegas.
That situation is just an absolute mess.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I mean, nobody goes to the games. I mean, I haven't checked attendance.
Do you
lately.
even want to check attendance? I mean, I could right now.
I do for S's and giggles, but
Maybe we have more people go to Lyndhurst Golden Bears baseball games right now.
you know what? They
That's a
probably do,
possibility.
to be honest with you. Let's see. Well,
What
it's
do they
not
have?
even close. I mean,
What do they have? 1900 today?
no, I'm looking at for the season actually.
Oh.
I don't know if I looked at the schedule. I don't think they're home.
Okay.
But
No, I know. I mean, I'm just curious, like their last attendance. So
in 21 home games, they've averaged 7,928 fans.
So they're in pretty much they're in Expos territory. Then it's Expos.
It's
territory.
getting there. Oh, actually, they are at home. So let me look. Yesterday, they're playing the Rangers. They hosted the Rangers yesterday. 3,203.
Tonight.
How does
last night?
How does Major League Baseball let that situation go on in Tampa Bay? It's amazing.
Well, Tampa Bay, they win. I guess might be the only
Tampa.
attendance. Reed was it? They average 15,000 in Tampa Bay a game right now. About
12,793.
Yeah,
That'll
but they do win.
The fourth fewest.
The fourth. So there's actually
There are
three
11 teams that average under 20,000 a night. Detroit, 19,752.
Cleveland, right? Baltimore,
Arizona, Minnesota,
Minnesota. Really? Well, the weather's bad.
17,965 after 24 home games.
How much is the number?
17,965.
Well, the weather's
Yeah.
bad in Minnesota. If let's see them in
Baltimore.
Not horrible.
Baltimore, 17,663. Cincinnati, 16,000. Kansas City, 15,818. Cleveland. Now, interesting. Everybody's played at least like 18, 19 home games. Cleveland's played 13. But be that as it may, they've only averaged 14,000 a night.
Wow.
And then Tampa, Miami, Pittsburgh, all in the 12,000 range.
I hope the A's stay in Oakland. They have a history there. Well, a lot of these teams. I mean, they're not. I mean, the
They have
only
a long-
thing.
they have a long history. You know, after
only
moving
thing I
from
can
Philadelphia
say,
and Kansas
though-
City, the A's have a long history, and it is a once proud franchise that, you know, I don't know what's going on with the politics and the councilmen out in the city of Oakland, because this is now 3 times. They lost the Warriors across the bay. They got that beautiful new Chase Center in San Francisco. The Raiders for years were fighting for a new building in Oakland. Didn't happen. See ya. We're going to Vegas. They're going to give us a new stadium. The Oakland A's, they're the last team standing, and these people in charge in Oakland are hell-bent on not coming together for a new stadium. So
Well, you know why? Because they don't want the people to pay for it, right? The owners are saying, "Oh, we want a tax break, or we want this, or we want them to pay for it." Why should a taxpayer pay for a new stadium?
That's why,
we
you
all
know
live
what?
broke, right?
The best
Because
thing
we're paying
for
for Bill
that
Stadium.
franchise would be to move to Vegas. Really,
I don't want to pay for a new stadium or a new arena. Why should I do it? We don't get anything out of it, right? We don't get free tickets. We don't get.
Chris,
I remember
and
Mike
use of it.
Francesa one year said,
Chris, guess what?
"Well,
We are
when
anyway.
when that came up, I remember
know.
Mike Francesa
We're paying for the
saying,
new Bill
well,
Stadium.
that's a whole another quagmire. But I remember Mike Francesa saying this. Well, the benefit would be that you get to have something to be proud of, something to cheer of. It's an what was the word that he used? It would be an emotional morale boost or something like that. I remember him saying this one time when they were talking about the Yankees and Mets getting the new stadiums on the air. And John Gonzalez gives us a history lesson saying, I know they began in Philadelphia, moved to KC, but it's in Oakland where they had those cool uniforms, Reggie Jackson, Rolly Fingers, Catfish
doubt.
Hunter.
yeah,
No
of
doubt.
course.
They had their
The Yankees have had in Oakland,
they
had like
they
a
had their
big
stars
history.
throughout the years. I mean,
I think every decade, if you think about the A's, the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s, the 2000s, even up to recently, they've had like some really, really, really good ball players. I mean, they've had like some really, really good
yes,
teams.
but they also go back to the Lefty Groves and the Jimmy Foxes of the world too.
Yeah,
That's
they're kind of like, in a way, like John's right, that I know everyone talks about like the Yankees, the Cardinals, the Dodgers, and the Red Sox, but like they have like an under the radar history. Like their
they
history
really
like,
do. You know,
it's pretty good.
Those A's teams of the 70s, you know, like he mentions with Reggie, Raleigh, and Catfish. I mean, and that was just those were.
I mean, even the teams in the 80s and 90s had that 4 or 5 year run. Then you had the run from the late 90s into the mid to late 2000s where they were in the postseason. And they had the most recent run. I mean, they've had like since they've been to Oakland, if I were to bet, they've probably been to the postseason like 20 times.
They're there a lot. I mean,
a lot of postseason
they're
appearances.
a proud franchise that, you know, despite the lack of spending, they've always been a reasonably competitive franchise.
Yeah, they've always.
And, you know, they're kind of getting away from that. And, you know, you have this fight with the city, and they're not getting their new stadium, and it's probably going to lead to them possibly going to Vegas.
Well, it's like, listen, I mean, before we get to closing thoughts, it's like what Chris said. I mean, you know, if I'm a taxpayer, right, and I got everything I'm putting up with, you know, putting my kids through schools and my food bills and gas and everything else, you know, that's always been the point of the taxpayer. But then on the other side, the economic benefits are that the team stays and there's jobs. It's a very delicate, it's a tightrope, as Chris
love their A's. They'll draw 35, 40,000 a night if you give them a new building. And guess what? Revenue sales will go up.
Definitely.
A person who's not into sports could care less.
That's the problem. You know what? You might get 35,000 a night, but that's still the minority of people.
And you got to remember, all those jobs are part-time jobs. It's not like they're full-time jobs.
I understand. Trust me, I understand the parts of it. Like the Stevie Ray Vaughan famously sang the tightrope. You're on a tightrope between, because Chris played Stevie Ray Vaughan's song obviously on Facebook a few days. So I thought about another Stevie Ray song called The Tightrope. But John says the Raiders belong in Oakland. It's a shame. Yeah, that's
right.
You know. No, they absolutely do. But
it is. But it's a business decision at some point.
Sports is a business.
They billion-dollar owners should build their own stadium.
They can't handle this anymore. And if the city council, if they don't do anything about this, they're going to definitely go to Vegas. I mean, Vegas is where the money is.
No, and that's the truth. And Joe Dell says, didn't that stadium get banged up in an earthquake during a World Series back in the day? I thought that was Candlestick.
Yeah, the game was that day. The game was at Candlestick.
Yeah.
Now, did Oakland Stadium suffered damage that day? Very possible. Right. Oakland and San Francisco right across.
I think that was the last game of the series, wasn't it?
No, it was game 3. It was game 3, I believe.
Wasn't that delayed too, like a week or something like that?
Yeah,
they never went back to Oakland then.
So I guess that was the reason of that. Well, I mean,
I think it was a sweep.
You know who I'd have to
Yeah.
ask, who's been on the show here a bunch of times? Bill Baith, a former San Francisco Giant. I have to
Yeah.
ask him that the next time when we get him on. But we'll figure that out here. But those are some of the things here that we've talked about here. It's been a impactful Sportswire radio show. We had Rob Maraska hang out with us here for a little while, talk some baseball. I think this is what we're going to be doing going forward because NBA is pretty much coming to a wrap here. NHL, we'll speak about the NHL for a little bit because obviously that's an interesting topic. And I think we'll take up Chris on the NHL Stanley Cup playoff preview here.
I would love that.
We'll definitely do that.
One quick update. The Heat
Yes.
defeated
Beat
the
the
Celtics
Celtics.
111-103. So Game 7 will be happening.
Oh, that'll be certainly
Is
interesting.
that in Boston or in Miami?
Miami.
Oh, nice.
Miami gets home for Game 7.
That'll be a very interesting topic. I'm sure the brute force Brad Weiss will have a lot to talk about that next week. I am looking forward to a Stanley Cup preview show here in a couple of weeks. We'll
have to work
get
that
we'll get as many of the hockey guys that we can get on here, and we'll talk about it. We'll shoot the breeze. I always love talking hockey, and I love talking with everybody here and watching and listening to this on Sportswire Radio. So I'm going to get to some closing thoughts here. So let me go to Justin Gianelli first. And Justin, I'm going to give you the floor. I'm going to give you some closing thoughts. Anything you want to plug, anything you want to share. And I can't thank you enough for all you do for us. I enjoyed the baseball banter shows. We'll continue to play it here throughout the weekend and such. And I can't thank you enough. And anything you want to plug, say, I give you the floor and fire away, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. Another wonderful week. A lot of action going on with the NHL playoffs, the Major League Baseball, basketball, obviously everything going on right now. I mean, it's just incredible. I think it's just incredible. I've watched pretty much every series for the NHL.
We've been on Twitter. I mean, it's been you, me, and Randy Dillon.
It's been an incredible postseason, and no matter what the Final Four is, we now know 3 of the 4 teams. With the Avalanche going to be playing the Oilers in the conference finals, they'll obviously have home ice, and then the winner of Carolina and the Rangers, they're going to have home ice for their conference final match against the Lightning. And, it'll be interesting to see how they deal with the Lightning team on plenty of rest, get Braden Point back healthy. It's going to be a lot of fun. And, I do look forward to that potential Stanley Cup final preview. And you know what? I think we're going to be in for a great Stanley Cup final. This season's going to end great. I will say that.
Absolutely.
And you know what? And I'm hoping it's Edmonton. I really do. I think it's long past due that we get Connor McDavid into the Stanley Cup Finals.
I kind of agree. I kind of agree
because that turns it into must-watch TV. It really does. And I think the Stanley Cup final ratings can go through the roof with Edmonton in the finals.
I think Edmonton and Tampa, listen, like Chris said, Tampa going for the 3rd straight Stanley Cup. McDavid, get all
massive
Canada
storylines right there. Absolutely.
A lot of great stuff there.
So, you can follow me on Twitter at JGNLE12, at BBallBanterSM. We're coming towards the end of the month. Memorial Day is Monday, so another reassessment of the league and where things are at. Obviously, some teams I'll have much better to say, like I was critical of Boston after the first month of season. Boston's playing better baseball right now. So, it's interesting to see how things work month to month. And so at some point we'll get an end of the month of May, look back. So, that's on the lookout. So that's all I got for tonight.
Absolutely. And of course, you can follow Justin, as he said, at JGNLE12. You can also find out where Justin did tweet the story here. The Angels have agreed to the Anaheim's request to cancel the Angels Stadium deal. So, story coming. Nice job there.
Yeah,
Justin.
I'm still waiting for the full story from Bill Shakin, who writes for the LA Times.
Well, I think a lot of people are going to certainly see it. And I have one comment on Twitter. Los Angeles Angels of Las Vegas. I don't know if that's just somebody trolling on Twitter, but that was kind of what I did think automatically first one. So who knows? But that'll be a development I'm sure we'll speak a lot about on next week's show. So great work, Justin. Is always looking forward to more from you during the week and on all the chats on Sportswire Radio. Chris, I'm going to give you the floor. I'm going to give you some closing thoughts. Anything you want to plug, anything you want to share, anything talking Rivals related, Liftoff Jets. And I can't thank you enough for all you do for us here at Sportswire Radio. And I turn it over to you. And also thank you for letting us know about John Gonzalez, because I'm still waiting for an answer on John Gonzalez when he is appearing on a Sportswire Radio live stream because he still has an
We're going
answer.
to be crossing our fingers and hoping.
Typical politician, right? Not giving us an answer, huh?
Well, well, I'm praying that we do get a John Gonzalez brute force matchup in the next week or so. So that would be great. And I'll be looking forward to the hockey preview show for you guys. I'm definitely gonna be checking it out.
I'm pumped up for that. Yep.
Thank you again, guys. Great show. Loved it. Yankees keep rolling, man. I'm really excited. Pitching staff is pitching great. Just got to get healthy again. So we'll be talking about it. Me and Patrick on Talking Rivals. Probably on Monday we'll get a show going.
Okay.
And with the liftoff show with Sharman, we'll be getting into the position previewing, heading into camp for the Jets.
Hey, we ain't that far away from camp. Today's
I know,
May 27, 28th. Ain't that far away, man.
I know it's crazy how quickly the season goes. So we'll be doing that. You can catch us at Liftoff Jets, at Talking Rivals for the baseball one, at CP7NY for my personal account. And you can catch the podcast everywhere. You catch them, Google, Apple, all that stuff. And you could also, obviously, right here.
Absolutely. We love playing it here. We love having all of our shows, all of our great podcasts, Pinstripe Chronicles, Talking Rivals, Liftoff Jets, Neil Villapiano's Devil's State of Mind, Randy Dillon when he occasionally has a hockey fan chat, and all of our wrestling shows. I mean, we have many, many great shows. Our DJs here today, I want to thank Dale, and also Thomas Clark also did some work for us. So we had a lot of people from England tuned in for the DJs, so really enjoyed both of them. And, of course, Talking Rivals, Liftoff Jets are basically two of our flagship shows, and Joe Del Comentis, great show, guys. So that brings me then to Rob Maraska. Rob, I'm going to give you the floor. Anything you want to plug? Enjoyed having you on here. Talk some baseball a little longer. I think that's going to be much more in the works here going forward. And John Gonzalez also agrees, despite the absence of the legendary brute force Brad Weiss, it was another classic show tonight. You guys were great. Thank you, John. John always also tunes into some of the wrestling streams, so I always appreciate that because I find more and more people message me randomly and said, hey, I heard you speak with this wrestler, I heard you speak with that wrestler, so we appreciate that. Also, all of those wrestling companies out there in England that continue to go above and beyond the means of supporting Sportswire Radio. I can't thank them enough. But Rob, I can't thank you enough, my friend. I give you the floor. Any closing thoughts you want to share? Anything else on your mind? And I can't thank you enough, and I turn it over to you.
Thanks, guys. Great show. I just wanted to announce that I'm going to have another contest in the upcoming weeks. More about it in the upcoming weeks. I'm working on it now. And, this time it's got to be a listener, who's listening. That's I'm going to make that clear because I'm giving away some good stuff. So they got to be.
Yeah, you're giving it away to people like we had Ray Elliott and like Ray, but like I don't even know who the hell he is. I mean, I love that.
Yeah, so that's what the next one's going to be.
Just don't give it to the brute force Brad Weiss because that would be like, is that like illegal?
You can't be on the show.
Okay,
Anyway,
that'd be fine.
Thanks. So you can follow me on Twitter at rmaraska and on Facebook at Rob Maraska.
Awesome. Great work there. Of course, want everybody to follow Rob Maraska, R Maraska, JGNLE12 on Twitter. And of course, CP7NY for Chris Bizea. The Brute Force Brad Weiss will join us next week. We'll also have Billy McInerney as well. Whether Billy will have an obituary for the Rangers or whether he will continue to go. I also want to congratulate our Lyndhurst Golden Bears for winning the 2022 NJIC Liberty Division Championship. Obviously, the team has a lot to be proud of with the likes of Vinny Auteri and Michael Rizzo. Obviously, Coach Auteri did a phenomenal job, 13-1 in the division here. Just did a phenomenal job dominating on senior night, no hitters. I mean, this team really they steamrolled the competition. They'll be back in action coming up here in the NJSIA tournament for the first round here in North Jersey, Section 2, Group 2 tournament, 4:15 p.m. time, June the 1st. So if you have a chance, definitely check out the boys. The boys have won 3 consecutive games here. Win at North Arlington 9-4, Emerson Borough 9-8, then Ridgefield 8-4. So some big wins for the boys. Obviously a phenomenal job here down the stretch. Just again, guys just doing it left and right. Anthony Pizzuti got us some big hits. I mean, even new guys joined us, Isaiah Alvarado and Matteo Morelli. I mean, Michael Rizzo once again. I mean, Pizzuti pitches, he hits. I mean, certainly we've got our own Otanis, also better versions of Otani. You can follow the boys anytime on Twitter at baseball_LHS22. I also want to congratulate all of our graduates. As I promised I would do this at Five Towns College, all of our guests that have come on that are seniors, Emily Angel Astra, who I still finally figured out how to say because she told me, well, think of the Angels and the Astros, because I kept butchering the poor girl's name, and I finally figured out how to do that. So, Emily, congratulations on a job well done at Five Towns. On to the next path. Sebastian Montenegro also graduating. Also want to thank all of our players at St. Joseph's, now New York, that is graduated, have come on the show. Alex Earhart, all of our favorites. But the basketball team, Kevin O'Halloran, Gordon Scheuer, everybody that graduated there at the team. So want to thank them. Also want to congratulate our guest that came on a few weeks ago over from the Williams Advancement Agency, Coach Gilbert. He is now going to be a coach our way here at Long Island University of Brooklyn here. He has now made it to the big time. He is now going to be an assistant coach. So I definitely want to thank Coach Stephen Gilbert for giving us the opportunity, literally like just days before he got the job. So apparently I've been told, which I can't confirm, but I guess I'm going to take the word of it, that a lot of people tuned in to our interview, and it very well might have helped him get a position to be an assistant coach at Long Island University for the basketball team. So I appreciate that. I appreciate Michael Williams once again for all of his support of Sportswire Radio and continuing to give us talent and guests. We'll have more people from the Williams Advancement Agency in the near and distant future, as long as Coach Gilbert will also be back with us. So I want to congratulate him on the position. You can follow Coach Gilbert, Coach Steve Gilbert on Instagram. Also, Williams Advancement Agency Instagram, Williams Advance 1 without the E on Twitter. And I want to thank everybody that has tuned in here throughout the week on Sportswire Radio. I want to wish everybody a very happy Memorial Day weekend. I want to thank those that have served here throughout this country and given us this opportunity to have the freedom that we have here on Sportswire Radio. I want to also thank everybody that's come on this week. I'll be back here Monday night, British Standard Time. We'll have some pro wrestling talk once again. Lord Damian Stone from CCW and much, much more. Simon Hill, who will also be on with us back-to-back along with Wildfire Nate Reese, and much, much more throughout the week. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. We got off a little bit earlier tonight so people can enjoy themselves throughout the weekend. We were joined with Rob Maraska, our longest tenured analyst, Chris Bizzea of the Liftoff Jets and the Talking Rivals Show, Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter Show. If you're on sportnarium.com/player, you'll get some music probably for the next 20 or so minutes, and you'll get those sit-down marks to return once again, plus the Pinstripe Chronicles latest episode. You'll also get a brand new Ammo and Danny show recapping the Championship League tournament. And if you're on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter, I thank you. I'll be back here Monday night, 7 p.m. British Standard Time. So hang on tuned for that. Thank you so much. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. Good night. And we'll be back here Monday night live on Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station.